Just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. Another week of footy done and dusted. The great Gurino joins me. Guru, how was the weekend, mate?
It's great, mate. I went through a fair whack of footy. I think I watched 13 games of footy on the weekend from NRL Mates Grand Final. Shout out to Bondi United who won their under-18s Grand Final last night at Leichhardt Oval.
Oh, nice.
Big evening. Good fun.
Any young whippersnappers that could be anything?
There's a couple there that could be anything. I won't mention, won't embarrass them. My brother had a handy game, so I'll keep it quiet.
So the young Gurino could be anything.
Mate, you know how you normally a younger brother maybe overtakes you when they're 15, 16?
Yeah.
I think he had me at about 6 fucking months. He's wiping the floor with me.
Hey, well, he can't watch footy the way you watch footy, though.
No way, no one can.
And the great Timmy, he's got a pep in his step. He's fucking, look at that smile. Look at the smile on his cunt's face.
Yeah.
Rightio.
The boys laughed at me the week before and I said that there was a bit of finals fever down in the capital.
Yeah.
A week, fresh up from a spell, missed out last week. Mate, good to be back on, and it was a good weekend for us Raiders fans. So,
Mate.
But as a few blokes pointed out on social media last night, we've still got to get through the Tigers at Leichhardt Oval. So there's a bit to do.
Okay. Yeah. Look, hey, I will remind the audience. I will take you back 10 weeks. And I said the Raiders had turned the ship around. And no one wanted to get on the board. No one wanted to get on board. Timmy, you didn't believe. Now you believe.
Oh, absolutely, I believe. Yeah, you did call it, and they hadn't seemingly done a lot, but mate, just in Ricky we trust.
Oh, mate, you know what? To be honest, like, yes, I'm fucking devastated. Broncos are out, and it's unacceptable the way that they went out. But at the end of the day, like, when you look at those two sides leading to finals footy, who deserves it more? The Raiders do. They fought tooth and nail. Like, yeah, they had some poor... Like, even the Newcastle game, they're down by fucking 20 or whatever, come out, fight, wasn't the best game. And, that's the difference. That's the difference. So, you still got to beat the Tigers, but the Broncos still have to beat the Dragons, which honestly, it's a 50-50 game. Even though the Dragons weren't the best yesterday. They got the win, snuck through. I think the Raiders deserve it. They absolutely deserve it. But brought to you by Budgie Smuggler, guys. Have a look at these ones. I mean, if there isn't a more iconic image in rugby league, John's down the McDonald's road with the can in one hand on the skateboard. Got some budgies in that. Also got the Better Than Lego ones. They're the official Better Than Lego. Matty Johns had a picture with it. One of the greatest.
Isn't it crazy how just a wild 24 hours, 20 years later, still holds up?
It's crazy.
They'll sell those out. Like,
yeah, 100%. So yeah, you got Joey, you got the Johns brothers. Doing their thing. So that's at Budgie. If you head over to budgiesmuggler.com.au and use Bloke, you get 20% off your purchase. And that is ending this Thursday, I think. I think it's ending this Thursday, but it's only around for a week. And so it's it's ending this Thursday. So budgiesmuggler.com.au. They got plenty more. They got the cheese. They got Better Than Lego that just came out. They've even got Better Than Lego bucket hats as well. So head over to budgiesmuggler.com.au. They've also got things for Father's Day if you missed Father's Day. So make sure to head to budgiesmuggler.com.au. Got some great stuff there, especially with summer coming up. Especially get the rig out. Get the rig out for summer.
Kempy, that they did one a couple of years ago for the Raiders boys, a specialised one, customised, when Josh Papali ran down Jamal Fogarty when he made that line break on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And there's one of Papali'i reaching out and bringing down Fogarty.
Oh, that's gold. That is gold. So, hey, they've probably got them still in the store, guys. Head to budgiesmuggler.com.au and grab a pair of budgies because they support the Bloke empire that is building. And the bigger we get, the more content we can do, all that great stuff. Now, on to, also brought to you by Bloke in a Bar Beer. Grab a case of Bloke in a Bar beer, go to blokeinab.com. We've got a store locator. You put in your postcode, it'll show you the nearest stockist. And Bloke jerseys, they're back this Wednesday. Bloke jerseys, the hottest commodity in the land. This Wednesday, be there, 6 p.m. Once these are gone, guys, I can't see, at the moment, I can't see us doing that design again. Maybe in a couple of years. What I do know for sure is that we already have next year's design done, and it's not that design. So if you want the OG, the original, the Bloke jerseys, Wednesday, 6 p.m, be there. Now, let's get into segment one. Top 8, Roosters and South both locked their positions in the top 8. What What should we talk about first? Broncos and Raiders or Roosters and South? We'll get it out of the way.
Band-Aid off, huh?
Let's rip it off. The Broncos' huge loss. The Raiders' huge win means the Raiders have jumped the Broncos into the 8. And matter of fact, if both teams win, essentially the Raiders stay in. It's pretty insane to think that the Broncos need to win. Like, they could have lost by 20 and still most likely made the finals if they beat the Dragons. The Dragons didn't look great on the weekend, even though they got the win. Broncos, absolutely shocking. Raiders, a fantastic win. I'll go to you first, Timmy. Thoughts on the Raiders and them being not locked in, but, be tough to push out now.
Yeah, so if we do knock off the Tigers at Leichhardt, and as I said, there's still plenty that needs to happen for that to happen. Look, we'll see how it pans out, but basically, if we lose to the Tigers this weekend, as far as I'm concerned, we don't deserve to play finals footy. Let's say if we won by 6 points or so, Brisbane would have to win by close to 50 against the Dragons to jump them percentage-wise. So, look, the fate's in our own hands. We've a couple of just crazy results over the last few weeks have landed for us, but we've had a really good stretch of 6 to 8 weeks. So we've earned the right, I think, to play finals footy as it stands. And the performance we put up on the weekend was, the Raiders historically, even over their last sort of 3 or 4 years of good finishes, win a lot of games by 2 and 4 and 6 points. So to go out there and put a score on when we needed it most was like, all right, sweet, we do have points in. We're a grindy, gritty side that loves to win tight. That's the style of footy we play. But to put points on, it was really good to see. Everything we did came off in that game. It was.
I tell you what, I think Raiders are a scary team to play in the finals because out of all the finals teams, they're probably the least favoured. But they have the team to just take it to another team. They have Ricky can get the boys firing. So it's going to be scary if they make the 8, which they most likely will. I wouldn't want to play them. I really wouldn't.
They go in, don't they, as like the genuine underdogs of the 8. Like every other side in that, you can make a strong case for that. They've got a grand final in them. The Raiders, they're going. A lot of supporters and fans will be saying, the Raiders are making up numbers in the 8, and fine, so be it. Maybe this is our grand final making the 8, but at the same time, if things eventuate and we make it to week 1 of the finals, we'll be going in there with nothing to lose.
What do you think about the Raiders essentially making the 8?
Yeah, well, I was just doing some quick maths, and it looks like the for and against, they're up on the Broncos by 43 points. So if they do win next week, as you said, if they win by 6, it will be around that 49-point mark, so it's going to be tough. Mate, I'm also looking at the top 4. You got Penrith, Cronulla, Cowboys, and then 4th will either be Melbourne or Parramatta. If you're in the top 4 and you lose week 1, week 2 is going to be a nightmare. I don't know who I would want to play out of Roosters, Bunnies, Canberra. Like, it's going to be tough.
Honestly, right now for me, Roosters at 6th are the second favourite to win. Like,
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how hectic this is. They've beaten the Storm. They're on a 7-game win streak. They even could have played better against the Storm. Like, the Storm had them on the ropes for quite a while, and they managed to defend. So you're right. Like, that second week, getting a red-hot Roosters, holy shit.
I mean, you could take teams 1 to 7, put them in a hat and pick out 2, and pick out Penrith and then someone else, and I'd go, yeah, I can see that as a grand final.
Yep,
it's crazy. Like, and even Canberra, like as you said, I thought yesterday was their most impressive game they've played in a long time as far as scoring points. Like the way they were hitting their short sides, and they were just normally you're so clunky and you win ugly. It was almost un-Canberra the other day.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Raiders the other day played like a top 8 side. Like they put a Manly team to the absolute sword, and I'd argue that even Penrith would have scored around that margin. You know what I mean? The margin that they won by was even a top 4 margin. And so, yeah, Raiders, incredible. Broncos, I'll get your guys' thoughts first. Thoughts, Kuru, on the Broncos?
Just before we get to that, wouldn't it just be the greatest middle finger to you of all time if the Tigers beat you next week?
It can happen.
It's at Leichhardt, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I'm telling you, as a long-serving Raiders fan, there's not a Raiders fan out there who's confident going into this game. Like we've blown things all over the place, and who knows what the Tigers are going to throw up in this one? Who knows what the Raiders are going to throw up? Jimmy Tamu gets off, so he gets his farewell game. Miracle, mate. As I said, the Raiders should be winning, but we are a long way from locked into this final spot.
Yeah. The Broncos,
Sunday believe it's Sunday afternoon. I
think it is.
Leichhardt Oval, farewelling a handful of players at the Tigers. Like, if they can't get up for it, they'll get up for nothing. So, we'll see.
See, I'm pretty, like, I think the Raiders smash them to smithereens. Like, I really do.
They should. I don't think anyone's
Yeah.
arguing that.
We should have smashed the Knights last weekend as well, but we didn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just think the Raiders look red hot. They look like they're on Ricky's wavelength. They look confident. They look like they're having fun. They everything looks positive for them. Like, it really looks like they're enjoying their footy and they're playing for each other. There's a team bond there. So I think they win by a substantial margin.
Future immortal Hudson Young will get us there.
Yeah, Hudson Young, he'll do something crazy. The big fella, mate. How good's he been? Anyway, we'll get to him later on the Broncos. Guru, what do you think, mate?
Yeah, I feel like I've said it the last few weeks. I just can't believe how it's played out. Sitting here 5 or 6 weeks ago thinking they'll be unlucky to miss the top 4. And then, you can probably talk about it more than me, but I'm disappointed. I can't imagine how you're fucking feeling.
Oh, mate, I'm gutted. Absolutely gutted. And it's not even about the 8. It's about when everything was on the line, that's what we turn up and dish out. Like, even if we got beaten by the Storm and the Eels, that's okay. Like, all right, we got beaten. We made a lot of progress. But what we dished up for our fans in our community is just unacceptable. Like, over 100 points in 2 weeks, over 100 missed tackles in 2 weeks. It's not befitting of the Broncos jersey. And they've let the past players down. Not me. Like, they haven't let me down because, like, fuck me, I barely played any games. I'm talking about the legends that made that Broncos jersey famous. Unfortunately, they let them down. They've let them down.
Mate, what kills me is, like, you come out and you get played off the park in the first half. You go in at halftime to regroup. They come out and they get worse. There's just...
It's concerning. It's concerning.
It's very 2020-esque. Like, I can't believe how it's played out.
What about you?
Yeah, they just, like, I'd love to sugarcoat it, but it's, as a bloke who's grown up as a diehard New South Wales Blues fan, New South Welshman, to see Queensland side slip out, it is what it is. To see him slip out of the 8, I'm stoked about it. But as a non-biased, I'm just being honest.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
As a rugby league fan, taking all bias out of the equation, I'm gutted for the Broncos in that sense because, we've spoken about it all year in depth about what they've done to turn this club around and what Kevy's done over the past 12 months to have them sitting top 4, the way they were coming out and playing weeks where early on in the season you thought, it's all off the back of Adam Reynolds' brilliance. But then they went through games without him there where they were still just clinical and playing brilliant footy. They obviously lost him early on in that game. Thought, all right, no, they've done it without him this season. Maybe they can regroup. And to see them drop down the way they have, it's been so disappointing. And like we'll sum them up, give it in a week's time when things finish up. But it's so disappointing for the Broncos.
I think in this competition, like, it is so hard to pull yourself off the bottom. You look at the last few years, your Tigers, your Titans, your Warriors, like even Canterbury, you look at the moves they've made this year, everything they've done, like they're sitting 12th, and I think they've done well this year. Like, it is so hard to pull yourself off the bottom of this competition. The Broncos somehow managed to do it, and like they finished 9th, but it still feels like a disappointment now.
Yeah, for sure.
Just for a bit of context, so today's the 29th of August. On the 30th of July, so 1 month ago, the Broncos played the Tigers, and going into that game, we're sitting in 4th.
Yeah. That's where it all went pear-shaped. Yeah. We won against the Eels, and then I think just players got comfortable. Gave
it to the Eels.
Yeah, absolutely gave it to it. And it was a fantastic performance. We went down to Sydney and did it. Like, it was all good, and then players just got comfortable. Everyone started patting each other on the back. How great are the Broncos? We've just towed up a premiership threat. This is what we turn out.
We had a discussion a month ago. Pat Carrigan or Payne Haas. Hasn't that been answered? Like, with all due respect to Payne, but Pat Carrigan is just an out-and-out leader.
Yeah, Payne's worked his absolute arse off. And, like, statistically and all that kind of stuff, he's one of the best front rowers we've ever seen. But sometimes there's these intangibles that Paddy just brings. There's just an intangible thing that he brings in the playing group. It is. It's shocking. It's disappointing because they've let themselves down. That's the thing. Like, they've proven that they can go out and take it to the best teams in the comp, and then just the last 2 weeks, I would love to get a read on what is going on there. Like, are people becoming too comfortable? Is there something in the playing group is there a divide, or is they not listening to Kevy? Because, like, I just don't know how you can go from a month ago being a red hot favourite, some even saying a premiership threat. Now, I didn't think they were a premiership threat this year, but I thought they'd definitely make the 8 after seeing what they'd done. It's just so disappointing. There's no other word. I'm almost like spent from energy from it. It's just the most disappointing way to end a year. Now with the rumours coming out about some players maybe being upset about, Kevy giving a spray. I hope that's not true. I really, really hope that's not true. I really, really hope that is not true, because what the past players have done to make that jersey so famous and make it what it is today, and then for a spray to upset you, like the fact that even got out, if it is true, would be really upsetting. So I'm gonna just try to reserve my comments on it because I don't know that it's true. Because if it is true, I have some strong comments.
No, for sure. And I mean, if you're conceding 100 points in 2 weeks when you got finals around the corner.
Let's just hope it's not true. Let's hope it's an exaggeration, and it's something that's through the grapevine, and it just made a bigger deal than what it really is. I'll leave it. We'll just leave it there. But I will say that, like, if that is true, you should not be in a Broncos jersey. It's that simple.
On the top 8 race with the Bronx. As I said, the Broncos don't necessarily need the Raiders to lose. Now, it seems almost unfathomable that they come out and put a cricket score on the Dragons, but it is still somewhat in their hands that if they come back, Carrigan back, hopefully Cobbo back, and they're fired up and they can come down and put a 50-point margin on the Dragons in Sydney, it can be done. They're not, they're not playing a top 4 side. I know it seems a stretch.
They don't deserve to make the 8, though.
They don't.
So like even if like the fact that they got pumped by 60 and then 50 points, if they can't get up for that game after getting pumped by 60, I honestly don't even think they're going to be able to get up for this one. That's how far gone this playing group seems to be, unfortunately, or at least some of the playing group.
Matt, how exciting would it be? Now, the Broncos, I believe, play before the Raiders this weekend. If they come out 20 minutes into the game, they're up 26-0, and you just start twiddling your fingers and toes.
Daring to dream.
Isn't it crazy, though? Like, what'd you finish last year? 15th? 14th?
14th.
So, like, to get to 9th, it's a pretty good effort, but when you take in the context of their season, it's crazy. Like,
it is, but I think also it's a good effort by last year's standards.
Yeah.
So we have moved into a new era, not even a new era, but it's just, if we accept that is okay, if we go, oh, yeah, sweet, like we made 9th, I'm not saying that you're saying that.
Yeah.
Then that's pathetic. That's pathetic.
But it is like if they were sitting 13th, 12th for the vast majority of the season, they finished 9th, we'd be going, oh, it's a good effort to get to where they were. But like, it's a positive that Brisbane have set their standards higher than that now.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand that. I understand that. But at the same time, like, as soon as you prove that you're actually better than that, that becomes irrelevant.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and it's good that it has, though. Yeah.
Well, I mean, has it? Because we're fucking just slipped out of the 8 and got pumped by record margins. Like, that's the concerning thing. Have we really set the standard? I don't think we have, and that's the problem. I think midway through the year, there's a lot of players in that team that thought they were a lot better than what they were, and that the whole team, like, you've got to blame the whole team. They thought they were way further along than they were, and it proved. The last couple of weeks have proven that we are nowhere near as far along as we thought we were.
What changes you got next year? Is it Reece Walsh coming in? Is that it?
We got Walsh at fullback. That's about it, I'd say. See, the roster-wise, I think we're fine, like for a top 8, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we'd still probably maybe one more big recruit would be good.
Yeah.
There have been whispers that if Haas wants $1 million and he goes elsewhere, that maybe the Broncos have a crack at Munster, which I think would be a really, really good thing. But then you've got to say, okay, where does Mam fit? Does he play 14 for a couple of years and then Munster and Mam jump into the halves together? But the roster's not the issue, in my opinion. It's just, I can't believe it. I cannot believe how quickly it's changed. There must be something going on internally. You can understand one-off every now and then, you get pumped or whatever as a young side, but to go this far downhill this quickly, something must have gone on. Like I don't get it. I do not get it.
Like I remember after that Parramatta game, like I wasn't even that impressed because that was who the Broncos were. That was who they'd shown us throughout the year that they were a team that could take on another top 8 side and really give it to them. Like,
yeah.
And then within a month, they're the polar opposite.
Like record back to back, 50 plus beatings like at Suncorp. I cannot. Anyway, we'll move past it, but it's extremely disappointing, and there needs to be some soul searching. I think that Paddy Carrigan obviously is a huge loss. Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to comment because I don't know what's going on internally. I would just love to hear what is the concerns from the players that are struggling. Like, are they not liking certain tactics? Are they like why a month ago we're all bought in, and then a month later we're not bought in? Makes no sense. Now to the Roosters and South, they both locked their positions in the top 8. Far out. Look, South they got the job done, and that's really good. But I tell you what, Roosters are looking fucking red hot. Red hot.
Yeah, I South won the other night. I didn't think they were overly impressive. I thought that they were pretty far off where they'd like to be. The Roosters, though, fuck, they're looking scary. When they announced their team last week, and I saw Rhea Hargraves, Matt Lodge down on the bench, you still had Takiaho and Lindsay Collins. Like, is that the best, big four in the comp? For the middle?
For sure. It's got to be.
They're going to lose Collins now, which will make it tough, but mate, they've managed to keep their head above water for the last 6 weeks without Takiaho or Collins. Just getting Takiaho back, getting him fit, it's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, and to be like, I know Collins is going to be out for a few weeks, but he had a pretty poor game.
Yep.
So it's like, it's not like he came back and was the difference.
And we know what Takiaho's capable of once he gets some match.
And he was great on the weekend. Mate, the Roosters are looking. Look, to be fair though, I thought the Storm played not poorly at all. I thought but they made a bunch of errors, 14 errors. But the Roosters, they're looking red hot. They are looking red hot, and I got a lot of shit when I kept saying, Robbo's tinkering. He's tinkering. It's going to come good, but. Right now, if I had to pick the grand final, I'd say Roosters Penrith. Right now, obviously that a week's a long time in footy. They could come out next week and play terrible, and we're all sitting here going, how good are the Rabbitohs? They just pounded them. And the Rabbitohs recently seemed to have the wood over the Roosters.
Yeah, won the last 4 against the Roosters.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. But far out, they look good. So I mean, what a top 8! Seriously, it's one of the best top 8s. Like. In most other years, if you've got 14 wins or 13 wins, you should be in the top 8. But because it's so tight, like it's just to think some of the teams that limped in last year with a losing record.
Was it 11 and 14 or something?
It was 10 and 14.
10 and 14.
Yeah.
So then either the Raiders or Broncos are a chance at missing out, likely to miss out with a 14 and 10 record.
Yeah. And so, like, for example, the record that got you into a final last year is basically 11th, is Manly.
Oh.
It's like they've won 9, so you add a game, obviously. But like that record last year could get you in. It's just crazy.
It's unbelievable.
And the gap, the gap between 8th and 10th is 2 wins. So it's a substantial gap.
Well, the finals were
10th.
decided last year.
It's
2.5 weeks out. It was...
So it's good. It's good for footy fans. I will say a silver lining as a footy content, I guess, creator or whatever. For me personally, a silver lining. I'm still devastated, but at least I can just enjoy the finals without having to deal with a fucking heartbreak. Like I've dealt with the heartbreak watching on the weekend. That mate, I can't remember the last time I was that devastated about rugby league. Because like when we were struggling, it was like, oh, we struggle now. We're a bad club. Now it's like you give all this hope just to get absolutely crushed. And so I tell you what, I'm lucky I didn't do any review that night. That whole playing crew would have hated my guts. I would have been out here ranting and raving, going, what the? You should see me notes. Just got to settle down after.
I've seen the notes. It's funny. I've just gone back on the ladders. Now let's assume for the sake of this that the Broncos and the Raiders both win this week. That means the Broncos will be on 30 points, sitting in 9th. And the last time that a team that's hit 30 and has not made the finals was in 1999.
1999?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's been a couple of 28s that have missed out, but 30, not since 99.
Great for rugby league.
I couldn't have almost worked out any better. The gap from 9th to, like you said, 9th to 11th, the gap from 9th to 12th, Broncos to Doggies, is 7 wins, which is ridiculous. The one I keep looking at as a Raider, if the Raiders can get there, or it could be the Broncos, whatever, of all the teams I don't want to play, or probably do want to play, I should say, in week 1 of finals, in that 5th spot is probably Parramatta, and they've been good, but it's Melbourne, Parramatta, Roosters, and then Bunnies. I'm just doing some quick math in the old melon, and I don't think there's a result, barring a blowout scoreline, where the Raiders can play Para. So the Raiders, likely week 1, are going to be playing either Melbourne or the Roosters. Potentially the Bunnies, but likely the Storm or the Roosters.
The Bunnies would have to have a huge win, wouldn't they?
32. There are so many... Yeah. Because Storm play Eels 4v5 and Roosters play Bunny 6 and 7, there's a million different ways it can work out, but about the only way it can't work out is Parramatta 5th, which is not ideal for the Raids.
Bunny's for and against about 50 points behind the Chooks too.
Yeah.
So week 1 right now, what is it shaping up to be? Is it Storm versus Panthers?
Storm or Eels.
V Penrith.
Yep. And then it's Sharkies v Cowboys.
Yeah, which is going to be interesting because, assuming the Sharks win this week against Newcastle, but if the Cowboys, because it sounds like Penrith are going to rest all their players this week.
Which means Cowboys win and lock in probably 3rd.
And if I'm the Cronulla Sharks, that win that the Cowboys got against the Tigers a few weeks ago is going to send the fucking Sharks up to North Queensland to play in a week 1.
Well, Sharkies, look at their points difference. The Sharkies are 187, 242. Yeah, okay, so... Yeah, that 2 points.
That 2 points is going to be massive if it does fall that way. Imagine going from Shark Park to North fucking Queensland.
Far out. And then also, like, not only do they get those 2 points, they get a Penrith resting half their side. And, like, so if you're a Sharkies fan, you're almost like, hang on a sec, how's that fair? That you get to just, they're playing a team that's a reserve grade side. I will say, though, Cowboys and Sharkies on the weekend, they didn't convince me. The Sharkies, I was a bit... The Sharkies and Cowboys I've been teetering on, like, yeah, I think they can challenge for a premiership, but I'm just a bit concerned they may not have that extra bit of X factor. Not X factor, because I got X factor, but just that next level. When the Roosters and the Storm take that next step, can the Shark... Because, like, finals footy is another level. Again, we haven't seen it, so we don't know. Yep. But it wasn't a convincing... Like, the Sharks wasn't convincing for me on the weekend.
You've still got to put Dale Finucane back in there. You've got to put Will Kennedy back in there. They reckon that Katoa could come back for finals too. Wow. They're saying
he's big. That's
big. So I personally think Dale is the guy that has to be on the field. No questions asked come finals time.
Yeah, real.
I've got a good one for you. So if Parramatta beat Melbourne, almost definitely week 1 of finals will be Penrith v Para.
Oh fuck!
And then we will also get Roosters v Rabbitohs. That is just if Parramatta beat Melbourne.
Holy shit.
Which would also be Penrith v Parramatta. Isn't that the game that Nathan Cleary got his suspension for? Returning for the same game.
Oh, yeah.
Battle of the West.
And then it'd be Raiders v Storm in Melbourne, where we are absolute specials. We love going to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, what a top 8. As I said, the good thing about it is, good thing for rugby league is this top 8 really, like, you know, yeah, there are favourites like the Roosters, the Panthers, but in saying that, like, there truly is, I honestly believe anyone in that top 8 could go on a run. You know what I mean? Even the Raiders. Like, they've won, what, of their last 10 games, it's like, what, 7?
11 from 15.
They're 11 from 15.
For the sake of just the fun of the weekend, not from a Raiders fan point of view, but I hope Melbourne play Para game 1 of the week, don't they? Yeah. So I hope Melbourne win that, because then there's a million different things that could happen around that 8. But if they Para win, it sort of narrows it down a lot. So it's how exciting though.
Mate,
what a great weekend of footy we have coming up.
Absolutely.
How good if we get Roosters South 2 weeks in a row?
Oh.
So good.
I don't know if Matty can handle it.
Nah, that just gave me like literal shivers. That's tough.
That'd be amazing.
Mate, so good. So good. It's just like the one team to squeeze out of that is the Broncos. It's like, why me? Why me? Out of all those teams that could have fucking fucked up, all those teams that could have gone, like the Eels. The Eels have turned it around. Fucking hell. But it is going to be an incredible final series. Now down to transfer whispers. Transfer whispers. Bulldogs linked to Benny Hunt. Gould met with Hunt and his manager last week. Wowzers. We'll talk about Benny Hunt right now, quickly. So this is really interesting because I think like you would have thought the general consensus was he is at least worth $1 million. I think that's the general consensus. But then, Freddie Fittler has come out and said that he believes that, about 700 to 750. He believes that the earlier years they struggled as a club and they've only made finals once since he's been there. So there has been some people, and in the comment section, that agree that because the early years weren't so great, the last 2 years have kind of fogged us a little bit and say he's worth $1 million. I personally think, and also the argument of him owing a club, I don't know, like this whole owing clubs this and that, I don't know if I agree with that because it's like, when a club owes a player, they don't, like for example, let's say Benny Hunt came out and played the first 2 years of the contract, he played, the last 2 years of his contract, he played in the first 2 years, and his first 2 years he played the last two. You think they'd go, oh, well, remember the 2 years that you played really well? Let's give you $1 million.
What a chance.
Yeah, so it doesn't really work like that. To be honest, I reckon it's all irrelevant because we know for a fact he'll get $1 million somewhere else. Timmy, I'll get your thoughts first on the Ben Hunt situation.
Well, we've spoken all year about the value of a good organising half, and we've looked at, Chad Townsend and Adam Reynolds have been the prime examples of that. Well, I'd argue aside from probably Nathan Cleary, Ben Hunt's probably the best organising halfback in the game. So I think I'd absolutely give him $1 million. I saw him interviewed after the win yesterday, and they asked him about his future, and he just did the classic, just trying to get through the season. Haven't decided anything. I'll speak to my manager after the season, which every time I hear that, I just think, sounds like every chance of going elsewhere. Because if they really want to stay, they say, look, I'd love to stay here. We're trying to make it happen, but we'll see if things pan out.
Yeah. Well, he met with Gus.
Exactly.
Which is alarm bells. Alarm bells. If you're a bloke that, because the narrative has been, oh, Benny Hunt loves the Dragons. He wants to stay. But now he's meeting with Gus Gould. I think, a week ago I said Dragons, you got nothing to worry about. Now I'm starting to go, because the thing that can happen is this. Ben Hunt can go into that meeting going, this is purely to get more money out of the Dragons because they've lowballed me, so I want more. He can walk out of that meeting going, he said some things that really did appeal to me. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Which Gus would.
Exactly.
Of all people.
So, even if his intention was it's just a negotiation tactic, just getting in front of him, it can be enough to just plant that little seed of hey, maybe I do want to go and try a different challenge somewhere else. Guru, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the Dragons should be very worried. I even thought his game yesterday, I think you could tell in his body language, he's frustrated beyond belief there. If I'm Ben Hunt, I'm sitting here going, I've played well enough to win a Dalian medal this year. My team's in 10th, and we're not even relevant. We're just beating the West Tigers. I'd love to see Ben Hunt move for the sake of Ben Hunt. And Canterbury, obviously, he had a meeting with Phil Gould. There's got to be a meeting with Wayne Bennett sometime soon.
They've been meeting with every single club. He could play 6, 7 or 9.
Well, I agree with you. I think he is probably after Cleary the second best organising half, and I don't think he's a halfback. I think he's a hooker. He could add so much to a club. If I'm the Dragons and I've got Phil Gould knocking, and he's obviously had a relationship with Wayne over the last few years, whether it be Broncos, Origin, you name it, I do think he'll leave. I think he'll be playing somewhere else next year.
What about so you think he will be playing somewhere else?
I've said it for a few weeks. I think he will. I think the Dolphins would be the perfect fit for him up there with Wayne.
Yeah, wow. Great Gurino. Big call. So you reckon 2024 he'll be gone?
Yes. Yeah. I reckon, and this is all just speculation, but I reckon the way it'll play out is that you'll see Ben Hunt go to the Dolphins, and I think the Dragons, they'll have to release him to do that, so they'll need to find a halfback, and that's where I reckon they'll reach out to Hastings, bring him back to the club.
Interesting. Wow. So you reckon they'd be willing to release Ben Hunt?
If you can get a halfback like Hastings for half the money, I mean, if they don't lose Ben Hunt next year, they're going to lose him the year after anyway. I can't see him finishing his career at the Dragons.
You don't think one extra year teaching Sullivan would help?
They're not even playing Bud Sullivan in the fucking halves. They're playing him at hooker.
Bizarre. I mean,
if I'm like, I watched that game yesterday. Sort of, I was in the car, so I was watching on the phone, but I noticed like there was moments there where I thought Jack Bird was playing hooker. There was moments there where Josh Maguire was playing hooker. Tyrell Sloan was playing on the wing. Bud Sullivan's playing hooker and taken off the bench. Did Amon get taken off the field at one point?
Yeah, 15 to go.
What the fuck is happening?
Mate, I don't know. We'll get to the Dragons. Get to their performance.
But surely Ben Hunt's got to be watching all this. He looked frustrated as all hell. He's going to come second to the Dally M's. His team's going to be finishing 10th. They're offering him $700K if that reported mark is on the money. Like, I imagine the money that Wayne could throw at him up there. And he gets to play under Wayne.
Do you think this throws a spanner in the works in the Munster situation for Munster?
Potentially, yeah. Do you take Ben Hunt next year if you could, or do you wait the extra year to get Cam Munster?
Well, I personally don't think the Dragons would release Hunt. I don't think they'd release him. They're so desperate to get...
They'd be mad if they did. Unless they had a ready-made replacement. There's not many of those,
that's where I think if they could get someone else to replace him, that's how they would do it.
You're right. Hastings is...
And I reckon Hastings is their best option.
Yeah, well, doesn't he still live down the Illawarra?
Still lives down there. He's a Dragons junior. He came all the way through with them. So I'd rather have Ben Hunt, don't get me wrong. But if I'm paying Ben Hunt 1 point whatever to compete with the other teams, or I can pay Hastings, what do you reckon they get Jackson for? 5, 6?
Yeah, 5, 6. Good 3 to 4 year contract. I think
half of what you're getting Ben Hunt for.
And just to be clear, guys, these are transfer whispers. So it's a bit of fun.
Whispers. Yeah.
There's no confirmation. I mean, he did meet with Gus, so but this is transfer whispers. Just a bit of fun to talk about rugby league and where they may or may not go. I will say though, if the Bulldogs land Benny Hunt, I'm talking finals footy immediately.
Yep.
Like, imagine him and Matty Burton, Reed Marnie at 9, Kickow on the edge. Because like Gus is also talking about he wanting to sign a fullback, which I feel sorry for Flanagan and Jake Averillo. See, I still think Flanagan can be that guy. Now, is he? Obviously, he's not Ben Hunt. I get that, but maybe he could spend that money elsewhere in the, in the cap.
I think if they're able to get Ben Hunt next season, I would be going out to find a fullback that can win you a comp now, because I think they can genuinely strike in the next 2 years.
That window opens straight away.
Straight away.
Immediately.
Ben Hunt, Burton, Marnie.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And I feel really sorry for Flano and Averillo because I think they're developing, they're doing well. But if you've got an opportunity to win a comp in the next 2 years, you got to strike.
Mate, I would love to see the Bulldogs salary cap and the amount of people Gus is just like going to be tapping on the shoulder and be like, sorry, mate. I need you to find another club. I'll help you, rah. Because like the fact that they can make these, the fact they can even talk to Ben Hunt after already signing Kickow, Sutton from the Raiders, who I actually think is one of the most underrated, one of the more underrated players.
Rock solid.
Mate, I think it was last year when he was playing 13. He was outstanding at 13. Anyway, we'll get to the shit Raiders fucking dogs. Yeah, so interesting. This is where I said last week, if Hunt, let's just assume it's true that Hunt went to them and said 850K. This is when playing with fire and trying to business negotiate your way backfires. Yep. Because imagine a world where Ben Hunt walks in, goes 850K, and they go, boom, done deal. He has no meeting. Now they face the prospect of losing Benny Hunt over 150 grand. Like, this is where I think you got to pick your moments of when to be harsh and like there has to be a structure by the way you negotiate. There has to be, because otherwise the club's just going to be constantly going on gut feel, for sure. But sometimes you got to bend that grey area to fit in some superstars. And this is where I feel like if Ben Hunt walked in, they should have said, yep, that's a very reasonable price. Like, there is no one in this whole comp that doesn't think that 800 to 850K isn't reasonable for Ben Hunt. And they go, boom, done deal. Avoids all this.
Yeah, you've got to be very self-aware sometimes. Dragons have got to realise that they're not a top 4 team, they're not a top 8 team at the moment. If they have an opportunity to keep Hunt,
keep him.
They've got to pay it.
Like, Ben Hunt for 800 at any club is a deal, is a bargain. Like, even if you brought him to the Panthers, you know what I mean? Like, and you played him like, I don't know, 6 and Luai was 14 or whatever it was, even though Luai and Likuri are good. But I'm just saying, like, that's how good of a player we're dealing with here.
Well, what's the high if you were the Dragons? What's the highest you would pay to keep Ben Hunt?
1 million.
Just 1 mil?
Probably what I would do is I'd go $1 million next year. Sorry. Because apparently they've contracted, again, or reportedly, apparently his contract was front-loaded. So he's actually not on 1.2. He didn't go up. He went big first couple of years and then down a little bit.
Where are they spending their money?
Well, we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw. So I would go to $1 million, and then I'd say like next year or two. Or what I'd try to do is go like $1 million and maybe 900 and just do a 2-year deal, because that's going to be the concerning thing. Is he is getting older now. They've all, like, we've had plenty of players play on like till they're 36, 37. But yeah, probably $1 million. But as I said, if Ben Hunt walked into my office and said 850K, I would say, boom, done deal. Let's do it straight. I wouldn't hesitate, because the thing is like, we can massage other things around that. 850, the top tier teams would kill for a half at 850K. You've got Penrith Panthers paying Cleary 1.3.
Yep.
Like, you got Munster. Munster's going to get paid $1 million, even though they asked him to take a pay cut to 750 because they'd signed all their other superstars. It's anyway. Timmy, what do you reckon about the Benny Hunt situation? I know you had a little bit at the start, but
Oh yeah, mate. We'll see how it all pans out, won't we? I'm with you. I'd give him $1 million. I think that's nice square number. Sounds right to me. If I was the Dragons, I'd be doing everything I can to keep him, because I think they'll be in all sorts without him. You know, even you go through a few of the options that we've touched on, they need to keep Ben Hunt. And I do salivate a little bit at the idea of him going to the Bulldogs alongside Matty Burton, because, oh, geez, you've got a good football side.
those Doggies fans would fucking go skits.
Yeah.
I love it. You got Fox on the edge there, Benny Hunt, Burton. So, and if there's a man that can get it done, it's Gus Gould. It's Gus Gould. If I'm Dragons, I'm scared that he met with Gould, because I'm like, fuck. One of the best orators in the game has got our players here.
Well, if there's one spot that they're looking to free up a bit of money, Tavita Pangai Jr. played New South Wales Cup on the weekend.
Well,
And he's
apparently,
a good coin.
apparently they're trying to offload. Like, reportedly, they're trying to offload Tavita, and it adds up because he's playing reserve grade. That's going to be really interesting.
He's on a good chunk, so.
Well, 900 this year, but I think that's because the Broncos are paying some of it.
Yeah.
And then I think next year it's about 700.
Yeah, well, they've also, obviously, Paul Vaughan's leaving. Matt Duffy's leaving. So there's
Thompson, I believe. Thompson's leaving, isn't he?
No, I don't. I think they were actually trying to offload him. I think he signed to like 2024 or something.
Yeah, right.
Quite long. I think they were
23.
23. Okay, but because he's on a fair whack. But I think they can. They got. Where I am surprised with the Bulldogs is, I think, like, Vaughan and Thompson, they can be premier front rows. Like, I think Vaughan's been really good for him this year.
I'm surprised they've let Vaughan go at the end of the day.
Maybe he got a big offer overseas and they couldn't match it. But it didn't seem like that. It seemed more like they told him.
Yeah.
I think Vaughan's been outstanding. I really, really do. And, you know, he had his issues at the Dragons, but he's just gone about his business, played footy, and played good footy, in my opinion. And I look at their forward pack and I go, who replaces him next year? I don't see it.
Max King's been really good, but I think Max King's a perfect sort of second fiddle front rower.
You need your grindy front rower that just each week comes out, gives you 140 metres, 30 tackles, 1 or 2 misses. That's it. You need that in your side.
You're paying 150, 200K a year, and they just do that job for you.
Do it every single week.
Yeah.
Anyway, real interesting. Watch this space regarding Ben Hunt. I think it could get interesting. It could get interesting, and I think the Dragons might be sitting back going, should have just taken that 800 to 850K. Roosters signed Jackson Polo. Another outside back. I think that I think a fresh start is good for him. I think he's a young kid with all the genetic ability in the world. Big, tall, strong. We've seen him play some really good footy, but I think a fresh start is needed for him. We discussed it from the start of the year. We didn't think he was probably ready for first grade yet, at least at centre, when they were looking for that new centre. For the Rabbitohs, I think he's going to. I do really think that they're going to get the best out of him, because there's so much potential there. It's just about developing it the right way. Not to say the Rabbitohs can't do that, but sometimes a fresh start is exactly what you need. It's just freshens you up, maybe makes you realise, like, you know what, I've got to.
Do you see Swaliti moving to centre next year?
I'd keep him on the sting. I really would. He's way more valuable there. And centres, like, they don't really, unless you're Manu, they don't really get through that much work. But, Suoliti, Can we get a confirmation in the comment section? Sorry, I know they asked this last week, but I didn't really see. I think I saw one, but it wasn't really confirming. Is it Suali'i or Swali'i? Because I don't know. The Fox commentators are saying Swatli'i, and I'm saying Suali'i. But then I'm like, well, if it's Swatli'i, is it Swali'i? Wouldn't Jaden Sua be Jaden Swa? Which it isn't. It's Jaden Sua. So please let us know in the comment section because we want to make sure we get it right. But I'm pretty sure it is Suali'i. Just need confirmation. But yeah, Jackson Paulo, probably saying that wrong too, but doing my best. I think he'll be good. I really do. He'd be on minimum contract. He's got all the potential in the world. I think he'll be good.
It almost feels like the Roosters are doing it out of spite to turn him into a good footballer and say, oh, look what we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he will be handy there. What a crazy turn of events the last 2 weeks have been for him.
Yeah, crazy.
I did not. I assume you guys didn't, but I did not see this coming in.
Nah, it shocked me. It shocked me.
I almost thought it was like a Batuta or something when I first read it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like everything that's happened, and he's going to like pay the Rabbitohs fans back by like bouncing. Yeah, I think it's great. I really do. I think they're going to get the best out of him. I think that he hit a bit of a roadblock at the Rabbitohs. He didn't seem to be continuing on his way, and I think he'll be good at the Roosters. Matter of fact, I even think there's a chance that he'll be really good at the Roosters because you just look at his physique. Look at his potential, and he had that really good run last year for the Rabbitohs. So I think it's a good sign. Bevan French expected to sign a 2-year deal with Newcastle. This is a really interesting one because Bevan French has been absolutely killing it in the Super League. Scored like 7 tries or something a couple of weeks ago. 6 or 7?
7, yeah. There's
7.
Him and Jai Field have been carving it up.
And when he left the Eels, I was like, I cannot believe another club doesn't want this kid. Like, I just couldn't. I was surprised he couldn't get a start for one. But then I was surprised that no other club offered this kid another. Like he's electrifying. Now the interesting thing is though, if he's signed to be a winger, it's like good solid signing, but it's not going to change anything at the Knights. Thoughts on the Bevan French signing?
Yeah, I sort of feel like since probably Preston Campbell retired, that really small player. No one's like it's sort of been a bit of a taboo. Like you have to be above 80 kilos. I think that Pappy's played a big role in sort of changing that over the last few years. That he's been a lighter player, a smaller player, but he's just had so much impact on the game, and I'm really excited to see French return.
Do you reckon he plays wing?
I've got no idea where he plays. I'm not sure. I mean, if he is playing wing, it'd definitely be a guy that you'd be trying to get at. Like some of the guys in this competition are so good in the air now that I think you would be trying to target Bevan, but. Man, some of the stuff he's able to do with the ball, like no one else can do the shit that he does. Even when he was playing at Parramatta a few years ago, like he's lightning quick. And just from watching a couple of highlights in England, I don't watch the comp all that closely, but just his awareness all the time. Yeah. He's got stuff that you can't coach, that you can't teach. So
he's got a great feel for the game.
A great feel, yeah. I'm excited to see him return. I don't know where he play. Would you play him on the wing? Is that where?
Well, because I wouldn't play Kalen.
Yeah.
So what I think is that they've signed him probably on a minimum deal, and he's going to be there. Maybe he does fight and gets a wing spot, but I think he's also going to be there just in case Kalen becomes injured because the concern, and Tex Hoy began to find his feet a little bit, but for a very long time he was the guy that would fill in for Kalen. Like he was going to be that guy.
Yep.
And it didn't seem to really work out. He's now gone to the Super League, and so I think the Knights have identified like, if Kalen's out, we need a gun to replace him so that we aren't so much worse without Kalen. So I think that he's there just in case they want to move him to 6. I don't know why they would. But then he's also there if he gets injured. Timmy, what do you reckon about Bevan to the Knights?
Yeah, really exciting. And I think you're on the money there. They're going, we need KP's missed a lot of footy over the last few years for different reasons, and they'll be going, we need a quality fullback to replace him. Money-wise, I'm very intrigued because... what he's been doing over in the Super League, he'd be commanding more money than what would be the minimum wage or thereabouts minimum wage in the NRL. So I can't see him giving up, a 350K deal in the Super League, which I'm sure he could probably command.
Maybe even more, honestly.
Yeah, potentially even more.
Because he's a fullback there, isn't he?
Fullback wing. So Jai Field playing fullback for him and killing it.
Yeah. Has he played some in the halves this year too?
Bevan.
I thought Jai was at 6 sometimes.
Yeah, I
and Bevan was
Bevan
at 1.
had 2, but as I said, I don't watch it overly closely.
We'll have a bit of a look more into it as we go.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's like he could commit regardless. He could command decent, that 300 to 400, maybe 500k, whatever, over in the Super League. So he's not going to come back here for 130 to 150 to 160k. But then the question is when he comes back, playing him on the wing, it's like, yeah, he'll do an okay job, but you'd love to see him at fullback, wouldn't you?
Thinking maybe he misses home.
And maybe it is as simple as that, and we're overlooking it. But missing home's a lot to give up a lot of money for this early in his career. And I like we see a lot of speedsters in particular go over the Super League and absolutely kill it because, speed kills in any footy, but in Super League, they're just superstars.
Yeah, yeah.
Jai Field, Adam Quinlan.
Yeah.
All these blokes who go over there who are, borderline starters in NRL just kill it over there when they're lightning quick. And Bevan was no different. Bevan can be a star in the NRL. Like a lot of them go over there, kill it, come back, and they're reserve graders. But we know Bevan's got the attributes. I think he needed that time over there to nurture his skills and just mature as a footballer, mature into his body a little bit. He was obviously quite small, so on the wing, is he going to be too small to defend on the wing here?
He's not like he's. I think he's still about 5'11".
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah,
he was
not tiny.
He was quite small, like
frame-wise.
Yeah, frame-wise when he was playing. Sure. But as I said, he's grown older. He's growing into his frame, so he will be bigger. So you're right. Like it's exciting for Newcastle for sure.
Yeah.
He's only played fullback and wing too.
Okay, fullback and wing.
Yep.
What more, fullback or wing?
About 2 seasons ago, he played the entire season fullback. Since then, he's been playing a lot of wing because Jai Field's been playing a lot of fullback.
Okay, so I wonder whether it's a case of another club would want to pick him up though for a fullback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you're talking about the Doggies looking for a fullback.
Yeah.
So 29 tries this season, 4 ahead of second place Kenny Seo, and then 7 clear of Tommy Mackinson in 3rd place. So like firing over there.
Yeah, there must be, because there's no way the Knights paid 300k for him, 400k for him. There's just no way. It's just, unless they genuinely have a plan of Kalen at 6. That's the only way you'd pay 400k for a player like Bevan French to come play fullback. But yeah.
So the top try scorer in the Super League by that margin, as I said, you're going to command a bit of money.
Massive, and you can play fullback.
Yeah.
Like think of some of those mid-table teams that would pay him 400k to play fullback.
Yeah.
Especially when like he's played in the NRL before and he's well and truly hindered himself. He played 47 games. He scored 35 tries.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't believe that he couldn't pick up another club. Anyway, but what I will say is regardless, it's great for depth. Like it's a real good squad buy. Some of these buys, they're not like, set the world alight, but sometimes you need those really good squad buys that, he could turn out to be a great finishing winger like Alex Johnston. I know Alex Johnston, he's only about 5'11", 6 foot, isn't he? And he's about 92 kilos. So he's not that big and he can,
He's 185 centimetres, so that's...
Oh, so he's about 6'2".
6'1", yeah.
6'1".
Yeah.
Yep, and 95 kilos.
Okay. And so Bevan would be about, I reckon, 87 kilos by now. So he's not so small that he couldn't do some good things on the wing. Anyway.
Just on Newcastle too, obviously Bevan French from England. There's another 2 kids that they've reportedly signed from England. From what I've heard, I think it's pretty much done. Kai Pearce-Paul's the first one. He's playing for Wigan. He's actually playing in the same team as Bevan. Centre/back rower, got an incredible offload, really tall, lanky sort of creature. He's a very talented player. And then they've got Will Price, who's the son of Leon Price as well, who's apparently coming over. And Will's played this year. Just having a look, he's played fullback, 5'8", halfback throughout the year. So I haven't seen as much of him. He plays for Huddersfield, I believe, but people over there rave about him. But I really like this Kai Pearce-Paul. I think he'll be very talented when he gets here.
Kai Pearce-Paul, what a name.
Will Price is a star as well.
Yeah.
Well, is he?
He's a gun.
Okay.
And his old boy was a star of the Super League. Played some absurd amount of games over there. And Will Price can play, halves, fullback. I know the Raiders were after him, and they were originally front runners for his signature, but sounds more like Newcastle now, which is a shame because he's a kid with a lot of potential. So I'd love to see him out over here.
Who knows? Maybe the Knights have kind of struggle to recruit here, but they could have just picked some two really, really good. The concern about bringing Pommies over, obviously, is they miss home. Just like Aussies going over there, they miss home as well. So hopefully they can enjoy the sun. It's Newey, baby. Beautiful place, boys. Beautiful place.
This Kai Pearce, Paul, he's 6'6".
Holy
He's
shit.
a bit of gear. Yeah.
And he's got 3 first names, not 2.
3, yeah. Can't be trusted.
Fucking hell. Talk about a good footy player, and you got 3 first names. Now, all 5 Sharks starting back 5 are off contract at the end of 2023, but Mulatalo looks to have secured another 2 years. Mulatalo also came out and said they'd sat down and had a chat to each other, which is like so refreshing to hear. It's a really mature approach, and look, it can. The tough thing is it can create division because you can sit down and realise that this player that's playing Rezzies is on the same as you and you've played all year, but the positives that can come out of it is you can all sit down and go, boys, if we want to win a comp, let's all work it out so that we can, for example, let's say Mulatalo and Katoa sit down with each other and say, look, I'll take 100 off, you take 100 off, or something. Again, just throwing numbers out there. That can be given to Connor, Tracy, or that can be, you know what I mean? Or it can take Jesse Ramian from minimum to 300, and there's ways to do it. So again, there are negatives that can come with it, but also can be very mature, and I think that's look. I know that people think I'm a bit too hyped on the Sharkies, but I just see so many good things in the future for them. I really, really do. I don't think you've even seen close to where they're going to be at in regards to them as a footy side. Like even when they're playing decent footy, I still think they've got a whole nother gear in them. And so I think this is great. Mulatalo's been outstanding. Katoa's been outstanding. And the good thing about these two boys is like they're elite level, but they're not going to like demand huge cash like the Fox is, even though the Fox has been doing this for so many years. I personally think the Fox is one of the greatest winners of all time. But like Mulatalo and they can deliver essentially the same, but they just don't have that same name, so it's going to be a bit tough. So it's just a bit balanced squad. It's arguably the most balanced squad in the competition in regards to like the spend of them. Hines is on about 600 if you believe the reports. I think Moylan would be on about 300 to 400. Fafita is going to be retiring from the Sharkies and maybe play somewhere else next year. Dale Finucane I don't think is on massive overs. McInnes, so I'm excited for Sharkies. Yeah,
and you'd have to think that over the next, they'll free up Andrew Fafita money, as you said. I would say within the next 2 years, they probably free up some Wade Graham money. He's getting older as well. So I really like the direction of the Sharks. I'm probably... people would say I'm a little bit overhyped too, but I think they're heading in a really good direction.
And to be fair, we were hyped about them last year, and we said that, we said that this was going to happen. Like we said, they were going to be the team that pops up. Now we didn't predict the Cowboys, holy shit, but we did say the Sharkies were going to be something special. No, I think they're ahead of schedule.
Oh, they're ahead of the schedule I had them at. I thought they'd be a top 6 sort of side, but I thought we'd be sitting here at this point going, which halfback are they going to go out and get? Yeah. They've solved the biggest problem they had for me, and they've solved it incredibly well.
Nico Irons, fucking hell. Anyway, Timmy, thoughts?
Yeah, you touched on it with just how well balanced the roster is, and like Nico's the only probably out-and-out star on that roster, and he's now evidently on unders with how quickly he's made that transformation to a new club and to a new position. It's kind of like what the Dragons are trying to do with a balanced roster across the board, but the Sharks have nailed it.
Oh. And it's ironic because it's like they let go of McInnes. Like he's such a club player, you die to have him at your club. The Sharks have nailed it, and obviously the coaching staff, they just get it, and that's what it's. I know I bring it back to the Broncos a little bit, but that's what we could have had. I kind of feel like at the Broncos, and again, we still can get back there. But the Sharks have nailed everything that they've needed to nail. They've nailed depth. They've nailed being able to pick themselves up off the canvas. They've nailed like winning games that they didn't play that well, but they get the job done. They're all buying in. It doesn't sound like there's any prima donna kind of stuff. And again, I'm not saying in other clubs that is the case. I'm just saying that for Mulatalo to come out and say we've all sat down and had a chat, That's a sign of a great, great culture at a club.
On top of that, we always talk about the Penrith Panthers, their depth and everything. They finished second in the New South Wales Cup on the weekend.
The Sharkies did?
No, Penrith did.
Penrith
Jets, which is the Sharks reserve grade. They won the minor premiership.
So the Sharks won the minor premiership, yeah.
Over Penrith, yeah.
I'm telling you, I just think they're positioned. Their club financially, if you believe the reports, is in a incredible spot with the real estate. They've got upgrades to their stadium. They got a hot boy leading them around the park, which that pays dividends. Who's paying him for being hot? Is there a hot clause that he gets an extra 100K in third parties? Get him another 200K.
Yeah, you add in now that they're going to get, at a very minimum, 2 games of finals experience going into this roster that's on the up. Let's say they did finish 9th or 10th, and you're like, all right, they're a team on the up, but what that finals footy is going to do for them this year.
Mate, incredible. And just like, I know I joke about Hines being the hottest man alive, but it is good for the club to have a marketable superstar. He looks like he just come off the beach. He's been in a green room catching a few barrels. I don't know what the lingo is. He's a gronk, a grommet, whatever it is. Fucking hell, doing all that shit. What's the lingo, mate?
Those bloody surfing gronks.
Yeah. What's the lingo, grommet?
I mean...
Kook. He's a kook.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm not the person...
you're not a surfer?
You might look like it, but you're not.
Yeah, I might look like it, but I might live in the shire. But as a country boy, I'm not the person in the position to say it, but a grommet, a young surfer.
Okay, grommet.
A gronk is just...
A gronk.
Just a gronk.
Yeah,
just a knob.
Yeah, see, Gronk is very New South Wales orientated. It's not very it's made its way up to Queensland, but Queensland's more like Keith, Derrick, that kind of rhetoric. But yeah, he looks like he's just been in the surf. Fucking waxed his board, come in, whatever. I don't know the order of events, whether you wax before you go in or wax after. I don't know what it is. Being a country boy myself, growing up in the country of the Gold Coast, but he is extremely marketable. You know what I mean? And that matters. Like that it builds hype. It's the guy that the Shy can get around, and he was incredible in the Dark Knight. So, exciting times for the Sharkies. Really exciting. Now onto the team of the week.
That shirt, by the way, before we move on.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, I forgot. Yeah, I saw this, mate. Play on. Well done, Sharkies. So this was bought from the Cronulla Sharks, website, and they've released, I think they're releasing all their backline, maybe even their whole side. But yes, clubs are releasing kit that I can actually wear that's not like, you know what I mean? So good on you, Sharkies. Great shirt. I was a bit torn because it's like the only reason I was like sweet with it because it doesn't say Cronulla on it anywhere. You know what I mean? Because obviously Broncos man. And I was like, does it say Cronulla? And it's like, nah, it doesn't say Cronulla anywhere. So I don't think it does. It just says Nico Hines.
Yeah, a proud New South Welshman. It's good to see.
Anyway, on to team of the week. Don't forget, guys. Bloke jersey, 6 p.m. Wednesday, limited amount. Once these are gone, very small chance of getting them ever again. 6 p.m. at bloke.shop. Set your alarms. Stop the podcast, set your alarms, because I'm telling you, they're going to fly off the shelves. They're easily our most sold product by a mile. Most demanded, most loved. So make sure to be there 6 p.m. this Wednesday. Also, grab a case of Bloke in a bar. Bloke Midi in every single Liquor Legends in New South Wales and Queensland. Go to Liquor Legends website, because not all Liquor Legends stores are called Liquor Legends. Sometimes they're, called Dave's Liquor, or they're independently owned, but they just they buy off Liquor Legends and they're under the banner. So go to liquorlegends.com.au, put in your postcode, see what's near you. You'll be able to grab a Bloke Midi. Plus, Bloke in a Bar beer, the OG, the original full strength, that is in every single Celebrations, IGA Plus Liquor, Porter's Liquor, and Bottle-O. So you've got a Celebrations or Bottle-O near you in New South Wales or ACT. They stock Bloke in a Bar. So get down to your local, support local independent Aussie businesses, grab a case of OG Bloke, and we may have an announcement for Queensland. Now, we're in plenty of stores in Queensland too with the OG Bloke. Go to our website, you put in your postcode. For example, we're in every single Celebration Superstore. But you put in your postcode, you'll see all the stores that we're in Queensland. We're in the Caxton. We're on tap at the Caxton. I think they stock our middies as well, the Caxton bottle shop, so make sure to get in there. But there may be an announcement for Bloke Beer in regards to Queensland, and it may be all thanks to your guys' support. Really, really appreciate it. We actually had our biggest month ever for beer last week, so people are loving the beer, guys. So get down, grab it. It wouldn't have lasted the length that it's lasted unless it was a good beer. I promise you, give it a crack. It's a beautiful, beautiful beer. But let's get into team of the week. Let's get into team of the week. This week, I've got Gutherson and Tedesco. I didn't know who to put at fullback. I'm still unsure. I got May on the wing. I got Manu and Lomax in the centres. I got To'o on the other wing. Brimo at 6. Holy moly, he was good. I tell you what. Yeah, we'll get to it. Moses at 7. Moses, those baby blues broke me heart. Fisher Harris at 8. Coruscant at 9. Big Tino Malawi, one of the greats. I tell you what, if Broncos can lure him to the club, do that. He was incredible, absolutely incredible. Lane having the year of his career. Jesus. And Guru, he might have a little bit of smoky chat around Lane.
A little bit of kangaroo chat, huh?
Little smoky kangaroo chat, you reckon? Kick out at 12. Murray at 13. I thought Murray's first 20 minutes was amazing. Then I've got Nikora at 14. Jaden Sewer at 15. Burgess at 16. RCG at 17. But I'm still, there's a few positions I'm still a bit unsure, but that's my team of the week. Guru, what's your team of the week?
Yeah,
man?
Nakora's a good pick. I left him out of mine. He was sensational. I've got Gutho at fullback, Taylor May on one wing, Brian To'o on the other side, Manu and Lomax in the centres for me, AJ Brimson at 6. I think he had to be the player of the week this week. He was incredible. 7 was a tough one. You went Moses. I went Sean O'Sullivan. I thought he was really solid for Penrith. I went Tom Burgess and Tino up front with Appy in the 9, Lane and Hudson Young in the back row. With Cam Murray in the 13. Then my bench, I went Moisa, Kolomantangi, Isaiah Papali'i, and Mulatalo.
Yeah, I might put Young on the bench, actually, because people are going to be like, no Raiders. Kemper, you're just being upset that they towed you up. Your team of the week, and is it 17 Raiders players?
There's a lot of Raiders presence in there. But tough week, back rowers with the stars of the show. There's so many. I think nearly my whole bench is back rowers. King Gutho on the wings, Rapana, and then I couldn't split Taylor May and Brian To'o, who were pretty much identical in a lot of ways. Joey Manu, Zach Lomax in the centres. I had Jack White in at 6. I put my team together at the start of the Titans game on Sunday and had it locked in, like ready to change it during that game. Obviously, about 15 minutes into the game, I changed it to Brimo. I'm like, mate, can't. So I didn't go Jack over Brimo.
I thought you were going to say White. I'm like, mate, come on. Come on.
Brimo at 5'8", Most at half. Tappany at 8 with Tino at props, I should say. 9, Appy Coruscant. Back rows, Hudson Young, Isaiah Papali'i, Cam Murray at lock. My bench was Jack White and Kaloa Matangi, Sean Lane, Jaden Sewer, and I had an 18th man this week, Viliami Kikau.
Boom. You had an 18th man. Kikau, the big fella. He was outstanding on the edge. So you reckon Lane's a smoky for the squad?
I think he's a smoky for the squad, yeah. In saying that, you and Matty listed off all the back rowers that will be available. I think it'll be tough, but I think that if Parramatta go deep in the finals, I mean, is it fair to say he's been Parramatta's second best player this year?
For sure.
I'd say after Dill Brown. If you said he's their best...
You could argue it.
I wouldn't push back too heavily on you.
Yeah.
I just think his body shape and everything, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a smoky.
He's just finally finding that potential that, like, when you look at him, you're like, mate, you are perfect for the edge. Huge, rangy, mobile. And mate, some of the stuff he's been doing has been amazing. And like last year, the biggest knock on him was like just the errors.
Yeah.
You just guaranteed an error. Like every game, you'd be like, Lane's going to have an error. This year, he's been absolutely outstanding. Look, I don't think it's unreasonable to have him as a smoky for sure. I don't think it's unreasonable at all. I just think that it's just such a hotly contested spot.
Yep.
It's going to be tough to get him there. But look, if he got selected, he's had an incredible year. He really has.
Yeah, I think we said before I'd have Hudson in front of him, but I don't reckon Lane will be far off. I think people forget, geez, it's been a wild career. Like he started at Canterbury, went to the Warriors, went to Manly, then landed at Parramatta.
Yeah,
he's been around.
He's been around for sure. And I think it's a lot of clubs could see that potential, be like big, wide, rangy, wide running forward. Well, right now, who do we have in our Australian starting? You got, so Kafusi is pledged to Tonga.
Yep.
So you've basically got Murray will be on one edge.
Yep.
Yo at 13. But who's the other edge?
Angus
Crichton, yes. Angus Crichton for sure. But then in the squad, you've got to have at least another 2 wide running forwards. You've got what, Tyson Frizzell maybe. You've got Ryan Madison maybe. Liam Martin definitely will make it.
Liam Martin will be there, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd have Hudson pretty high up that list, to be honest with you.
It's going to be interesting.
Lane will have the old Sydney bias ahead of him with Hutto Young.
Yeah.
You wait and see. You will.
I mean, Kurt Catewell could be a smoky.
Yeah, potentially.
I personally I don't think he will make it. I just think that Broncos have really struggled. His end of year form hasn't been the best, unfortunately, even though I thought he had a great Origin series, if I remember correctly. So it's not that crazy of a shout. It really isn't. Because like back in the day, you just guaranteed Boyd Corder on one edge and then Kafusi on the other, really.
Yeah, and it's always with these things, especially because they are so long, and there'll be clubs that'll be holding back players to have surgeries throughout this season that they'll come at the end of the year, and there'll be a number of guys that'll pull out of this World Cup as well. So there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing and a lot of spots that'll open up.
I really can see Young in the squad. I can.
Did we mention Jeremiah Nana?
Nana, yeah.
Yeah, and Jai Arrow, he could be there as well.
Oh, Jai Arrow. That was fun. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think Nana will be there. Nana. I'm pretty sure, again, guys, we've been not told. So I was watching a game a week ago or whatever, and I think Jeremiah has come out and said it is pronounced Nana, not Nanai. But please correct us in the comment section if we're getting that incorrect.
Ruben Cotter they'll take too.
Oh, yeah, Cotter. But he'll probably be in front row.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Still, though, there's only X amount of spots you can take on this thing.
I would play Jai Arrow as a middle. If Jai Arrow's in that squad, I'd play him as a middle ahead of an edge. I think there's better edge back rolls than him.
Yeah, like more damaging, like attacking wise.
More. But in the middle, I quite like him.
Yeah, I really like him.
Yeah.
I think he's just been so underrated, the Rabbitohs. So underrated. Oh, let's get into it. Oh fuck. Fucking hurts, man. Broncos versus the Eels. Eels pumped us next game. Look, this was extremely disappointing. This was like it was a perfect example of how far we have fallen as a team. The same team that we bashed at home, like into submission, where we're all sitting there going, fuck, look at this young Broncos just taking it to this big Eels pack that dominates everyone else. Fast forward, 5 weeks or so, and we get absolutely slaughtered by them. The Eels were outstanding. The Eels were outstanding, and I know a lot of other people just refuse to, or they don't want to believe that they're a premiership threat. I think they are. I really think they are. Like, that's 2 on the trot now, 2 big wins, and like I can't count them out. I just can't count the Eels out. They looked fast. They looked energetic. And yes, I understand that we've seen this all year long, where they do it for a game and then the next game they're low, then they're up, then they're low. But I just think that Moses coming back, another couple games of Dylan Brown, they look dangerous to me. Gutho was starting to hit form. I think the Eels look fantastic. What do you think about the Eels, Guru?
Yeah, I thought they performed really well in this game. I love the way the halves are playing at the moment. It's tough to get a read on them for me, though. Like, you look back over the last few weeks, and round 19 they played Brisbane. They got played off the park that night. Then round 20 they came over against the Penrith Panthers, who I thought Parramatta played sensational, but you did have the Nathan Cleary send-off, so it sort of made it hard to get a guide on that game. They then beat Manly. Then got dusted 26-0 by the Rabbitohs. And then since then, yes, they've had 2 big wins, but it's been Canterbury and the Bulldogs, 2 teams that aren't top 8 sides. So there is...
If you had to face one of Canterbury or the Bulldogs, who would you take?
That's not what I said. Sorry, Canterbury and then the Brisbane Broncos.
No, I'm with you.
So,
it's hard to get a gauge.
But they can only play who's put in front of them.
And they pounded both of them.
They've pounded them, yes. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. And I love the way the halves are playing at the moment. We spoke about Brimson being the best player of the week. If Gutho wasn't second,
mate,
he was very, very impressive. So I'm so excited to see what they do this week against the Melbourne Storm at home.
It's an interesting one. It's a real gauge for them, because we know the Storm are playing good footy. Like, we know that it's really interesting. The Storm have almost taken a step back. Like, they've fallen back on their fundamentals of what they are as a team, of this just grindy, fucking just stay in the game, real gritty. But, yeah, back to the Eels. I know it's against lesser opponents. The key thing for the Eels going into this week is they need to erase those last 2 games. because the last thing they need to go into the Storm is think they're world beaters and they're going to kill it, they're going to dominate. They need to really always remember, and I just think they will. I think that they're going to look. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but I think there is a chance they go on a run. I wouldn't want to play them in finals footy. I really wouldn't want to. Like, put it this way: they finish top 4, they win that first week, boom, they're in a prelim. That's a successful year in my opinion. Yeah, and I know fans are going to sit there. Oh, that's not successful. Like they didn't win the comp, they didn't make a grand final. It's like, look, only one team wins the comp. Yeah. A prelim for me right now is a successful year. I think getting knocked out, in the finals first couple of weeks would be a satisfactory year, and then obviously not making the finals is a very poor year. I think Mitchell Moses is just. I think he deserves a massive credit. Mitchell Moses. I think he's become really, really consistent, and I think even when they play poorly, he's usually their best player. I think he's matured massively as a player. But Timmy, what do you reckon about the Eels?
Yeah, I mean it's like we say it every week, but still not a lot has changed. And this week is as big a game as it's going to get for Parramatta because they win, they're in the top 4. And what we've said for the last 10 to 12 weeks is that Para really need to be top 4 because we questioned whether they could put those 4 weeks together in a row with their inconsistency all year to win a comp. So if they can win this week, they get the opportunity to take on Penrith week 1 of finals that they've beaten twice this year. They know they can beat them. And if they can win that, as you said, straight to a prelim final, week off, every chance in the world. So really fascinating game with Melbourne. The one that stands out for me is just their left edge is getting better and better and better. And we look at the best edges in the game and you go probably Bunny's left edge and Penrith left edge are probably, the pinnacle of the game. But Parramatta's left edge with Brown, Lane, now Tommy Opicic of all people, and Micah Sevo, and then Gutho being a key part of that as well, is absolutely elite. Teams cannot defend it.
Yeah, I know.
And then they give, the way Brown squares up and creates that space out the back, how quickly Gutho's sweeping, they give Sevo an inch and he scores every time. You can't stop the bloke.
He's a beast.
So they made the switch, Mitchy Moses and Dylan Brown, keep forgetting it was last year or the year before, but it's been so pivotal to their attack and their success. And I think it's just near impossible to defend it. When they get it right and when they're rolling through the middle, it can win them a comp, that left edge.
Yeah. And mate, the right edge, not as good as the left, but they've found Wong and Blake's spot now, I think. Yeah. I think wing is his spot. Moses is in sensational form. IPAT was the best forward in rugby league last year. Across the park, they are just... And I thought Junior Bolo, I thought he had a really good game on the weekend. He was back to his offloading.
Yeah, I think he was injured those few weeks where he was really down because he looked way better. And you look at it's hard. You're right though. It's hard to gauge because the Broncos, in the first 20 minutes, they completed at 54%. They had 6 errors and 3 penalties in the first 20 minutes. That's terrible. That's the frustrating thing about that is not talent. That is not anything other than concentration and attitude. That's it. And so it's hard to say whether, did Eels get lucky and just play a terrible Broncos side and just blow them off the park, or are the Eels just back to their best? So it's hard to say. I will say, though, that in their defence, their run at the end of the year, this is, even though it sounds crazy to say this is actually their best run that they've had compared to the last couple of years, because the last couple of years they just went like this, off a cliff. Whereas this year they've managed to they'll drop a game and play shocking, but then the next game they'll come back and play really well. So that is a positive. Their end year has improved, if not the most, if not crazy, it's definitely improved.
My biggest worry all year has just been I've said all year, I don't really care what they do in the regular season. I know they're going to be there come finals. They're a finals team. In my opinion, they're playing for a top 4 this weekend. Final starts a week early for them. Yeah. And as Tim said, I'm not confident that they can put 4 games in a row on the 4 wins in a row on. If they lose this week, they're going to have to play 5 weeks in a row of final standard footy. Yeah. Which is what's going to make it tough. So if they can win this week against the Melbourne Storm, I'm looking at them
Because, like, think about this. They win this week. They play a Penrith Panthers the first week Cleary's back. So it's, even though it's like that Penrith side is just almost looks unbeatable, if there is a time to play them, it's that first week. Because if you beat them, you put them on the other side of the draw.
Like, if we were talking about any other team in this comp and I said you've got to beat Melbourne this week to play Penrith, you'd be going, miss me with that.
No
but this team,
Yeah.
they're the one team that can actually beat these sides.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they before Cleary got sent off, they were up in that game, weren't they? 12-6?
Yeah, and then they were the much better team.
Yeah.
That's the thing that makes, and it's the same in this game. Like, they were well and truly up against Brisbane. Then you had Reynolds and a couple of other guys get injured, which sort of takes it away from Parramatta to some extent. But in both games, they were the better team by far and away before all that shit happened.
Yeah, so it's a huge game this weekend because if you just, I agree that if they can win this game this week, and then it sounds stupid, like, of course if they beat Penrith in week 1, but it's because they don't have to go on a run then. They can go, boom, prelim, then they're 80 minutes away from a GF.
Yep.
Whereas if they lose this weekend, they have to go win pretty much. And they can go on a 4-game winning streak, but if there is a team in the comp that like seems to struggle with that, it is the Parramatta Eels. So this weekend could set them up so massively set them up. Because as you said, they're the only team in the comp we know for a fact can ambush the Storm and the Penrith Panthers. So, it's so interesting. I can't wait to see how they play this week. I cannot wait. And I really like Para and the way they play. They're exciting. They get amongst it, but they're not too wrestle heavy. You know, there are some sides that rely quite heavily on the wrestle. Dylan Brown is just such a pleasure to watch. Like, so smooth, so silky. Just his potential. He's 21, turning 22. Yep. He is still so young, and he looks like when all the great players look like they have more time than other players, and he's one of those players where he's always got time, and you're going, how does he always have that extra second that no one else does? But they create it for themselves.
Yeah, but they don't normally create it at this age.
Nah, not this early. Not this early, for sure.
That's the scary thing about him. You've got to also consider last few years, like, his season's been derailed a few times by back injuries, and it hasn't been easy for Dill Brown. So to be doing what he's doing, it's very impressive.
Outside of that, forward pack was outstanding. I mean, when you look at these forward pack numbers, you've got all of them over 100 metres, most of them, around the 150. They're a special side. I think Opacek they found their guy. Like, they just needed a solid centre. For a while there, I thought it was Murata Nikore. I thought he was the guy to do that, but he probably is better off bringing off the bench or playing at 13 if he has to, because he's such a big body.
Whereas I think Opacek he's always a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, and that's what you need.
That's what you need at centre sometimes.
And Pensini, he gets forgotten a lot, but he's only 19 still. So there's a lot to like.
What it does is Opacek at centre, and credit to Brad Arthur for throwing him in and dropping Bailey Simons. I think he was injured there for a little bit, and Simonson wasn't able to win his way back into the team. But we're talking about that left edge and the structure they play in. It's all about creating that space for Micah Sevo off the back of a sweep and Clint Gutherson. And Opacek, being a bigger body, just runs that terrific line. You have to hold on him. You can't give him an inch because he will run the perfect line.
Yep.
And if you hold out, or go out, I should say, he goes straight through every time.
Yeah.
And the other thing it does is it puts Warren Blake on the wing, who's better for yardage than Bailey Simonson anyway. So it's just a win all round, but a really, really good coaching call.
Yeah, absolutely. So really interesting to see what the Eels dish up this week because they're a scary side. They really are a scary side. And again, they're the only side that's beaten Storm and Penrith. And they're the two teams they play in the next weeks.
Is this them full strength as well? Are they missing anyone?
I'm pretty sure it's full strength.
Like, is that their best bench?
They're full strength. They're full strength,
yeah, okay.
So perfect. That's another thing, you've got to get lucky as well leading into finals. Yep. They seem to have gotten lucky, fingers crossed, obviously. So look, great stuff by the Eels. Yes, Bulldogs and Broncos, this week's going to test them, but the good thing is they're in a much stronger position in regards to form compared to last year. Last year, this time, they were honestly struggling. And then, they put some games together in final series, but they were struggling heading into it. And plus, last year they came 5th, didn't they? With Manly at 4. Yeah, because they had to beat Knights to play the Penrith Panthers. So yeah, if they can get that 4 spot, that is an improvement.
How about when, like, if a back rower scores a try and sets one up in a game, they're normally like the first point of conversation when you talk about a team's analysis. Isaiah Papali'i, it is just the reg now.
Yeah.
He scores, like, he scored one, set one up, ran for a stack of metres. It's honestly, scoring a try every week is the norm for him.
I can't believe how consistent he is. Like, consistently 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's like his numbers compared to other back rowers is just astronomical.
When before that, he was consistently inconsistent.
Yeah,
it's just the turnaround has been unbelievable.
One of the greats.
Really going to be interesting to see what happens at the Tigers. Like, you know, because clearly different systems affect him differently. Like the Warriors system just didn't seem to work out. Whether it's his fault or whoever's fault, it doesn't matter. The Eels system just seems to be working for him. Whatever it is, it works for him. It's going to be interesting to see what the Tigers do. Now, onto the Brizzy Broncos. I mean, there's not much to talk about. Extremely poor performance across the board. I'm trying to think of any player that some of the cover tackles of Payne Haas chasing across was really good.
Yeah, I thought he came up with a couple of really big effort plays that, they didn't actually get rewarded in the end, but I thought it was one of the few positives I could find out of that game.
Yeah. I think I thought Billy and Jake Turpin didn't have the best games.
I've got a question for you on that, and that was going to be my talking point with the Bronx. Why do they keep changing around their hookers every week?
I don't know.
Like,
it's
surely
bizarre.
you want some continuity and we talk about it often. Just keep your spine together. And they've been great all year. Surely you just stick with one of them. Even if they do play a 50, 30-minute split, Kevy Walters chops and changes them every week, and then when he feels like he throws in Corey Pax.
Well, that's what I'm not understanding. And this is my first talking point whilst I was watching the game. Turpin is starting, yet he was told he's not wanted next year. So, like, and it doesn't make sense. Like, why are we starting a guy? And I like Turpin. I think that there's still a place for him in the NRL, and a fresh start is going to be great for him. But, like, he's not good enough to be in the squad next year, but we're starting him at 9. How does that make any sense? And also, we don't have any other specialist hookers that I'm aware of. I know we've got a young guy coming through, but so we're willing to get rid of one of our hookers that when the times are tough and we just got pumped, we put him in. It just doesn't make sense. And Billy Walters, unfortunately, especially this week, like, he was really poor this week. 4 errors.
If all 3 of them, let's say they're all signed till 2025, what is your ideal hooking rotation between them?
That's the thing. Like, when we were winning, if I recall correctly, it was Billy Walters starting. And Corey Pakes was coming off the bench. So
surely that's your blueprint.
But then, Billy had a really poor game, unfortunately, on the weekend, and I don't know what the answer is. Now, after these two performances, I would be making changes. And I'd be bringing Gamble in. I'd bring in Corey Pakes in, just because, Turpin missed 6 tackles, had an error. Billy Walters missed 4 tackles. And look, they're not the only people that played poorly at all. But I'm just surprised. Like, for example, Tyson Gamble. I don't know. Like, I know he's not the most naturally gifted player. But I think we spoke about this last week where I was like, I feel like there's something more there to get out of Tyson. So I'm not sure.
You're saying you bring Gamble in where, at 5'8", or
on the bench at 14, and Corey Pakes starts.
Okay.
But that's because, like, I just can't have, like, Billy Walters played so poorly. I just don't know how he. Yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm not sure what the answer is. I really don't. And they're really, like, every bench player missed 5 tackles except for one, and he missed 2 tackles, but he only played for 15 minutes. So, like, if you're looking at averages, every one of our bench players missed minimum 5 tackles, which is, crazy talk.
Gamble hasn't lost a game this year.
Yeah, it's just some of the decisions I'm not sure of. Ezra's defense, he's so young. It's just doesn't seem to be. Yeah, it's part of growing as a rookie, and it is the one thing that I said at the start of the year, or even when I watched his highlights. I think I just said, like, that's always going to be something, and he's going to need to work on is his defense. The thing is, he started off really well. His defense was really strong. But I think maybe teams are starting to identify as a rookie that, he is a rookie. He's still super young. He's in his first year of first grade. He had some incisive runs. There's no like we all know his attack is thrilling, but unfortunately, I think the last 2 weeks. I think last week he missed maybe 9 or 10. This week he's missed 8 tackles. Staggs missed a few tackles. Tomato Martin missed 3 tackles. So yeah, it's really disappointing. Really disappointing.
Oh, I'm just talking off solid numbers. Hopefully you'll be able to. I mean, Kurt Capewell, last 5 or 6 weeks, he's missed a minimum of 6 tackles.
Yeah, I know.
Is that him shooting up and cutting off things that I haven't noticed, or is
that's what I was been talking about with his form? He has not been playing good footy, and I said it last week. Unfortunately, even our senior guys like Capewell and Reynolds haven't played that great of footy.
Yeah, well,
and it's like, are they fatigued? Are they tired? Like, there's essentially not a single player playing really good footy at the Broncos right now, which is concerning, which means that there is much more to it than form or whatever. There's got to be something going on there.
Well, like just looking at Capewell, like without targeting him, like he's missed less than 5 tackles in one of his last 10 games.
Yeah. He's missed a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I said in the Australian squad he has not been great. And then we've got other players that make a bunch of errors. It's just, unfortunately Jordan Pereira had one of those games that he can tend to have, and it's probably the reason why he doesn't play more first grade. He had 3 errors. Corey Oates had another 3 errors. He had 3 errors last week. Yeah, so really, really disappointing. And the thing is that like against the Storm, you can make the excuse of bad night. That happens to all of us. There is no excuse for backing it up with what was backed up with on the weekend. Yeah, we had some injuries and guys go to, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're missing over 100 tackles, then in 2 weeks, then there's a serious attitude problem that needs to be sorted out.
I know it sounds outrageous to ask this, considering his age and everything and how many games he's played, but if Pat Carrigan wasn't suspended, do you think you'd be in this spot?
So it was against the Tigers. We lost to the Tigers. I think that we would still lose.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'd be losing by this much.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that for and against would be so important. I can't see him on the way that he's shown that he plays this year getting beaten by 50 and 60.
Yeah, I mean, not this year anyway. So a lot of these, unfortunately, it's a real man in the mirror moment for a lot of these players. You just sit down and ask yourself, what do you want to be as a player? And we all have those moments. We've all been in it, not really. There's never been a time where I've played where I've got beaten by 60 and then 50, but we've all been beaten by large scores or been in bad form or whatever. And yeah, I think a lot of people need to realise what that jersey means to them and need to start playing for all the legends and greats that came before them, because at the moment, just not looking good, man. Not looking good at all. And the scary thing for the Broncos now is we've gone from a team that, wow, this team could build into winning a premiership to, we might need to clean some players out, which is scary.
Jeez.
Like, to go through a whole rebuild when we thought we'd finally found the balance, really, yeah. The thing is at the end of the day, let the fans down, all that kind of stuff, but the worst thing is these boys have let themselves down. They've let themselves down. So hopefully they can turn around, hopefully. But, yeah, not looking good. Not looking good. I think there seems to be something more going on behind the scenes.
There has to be.
You don't fall off a cliff like this. You can go on a losing streak for sure. That's sweet, but losing the way we've been losing and like losing to bottom of the table Tigers in the nights, like we were lucky to beat them in the end there. So
it really is a cliff fall. Like, there's no other way to describe it.
Just like completely off a cliff. Anyway, hopefully the boys can turn it around. Now on to the Penny Panthers versus the Warriors. Clinical by the Panthers. That's the one word to describe this game for me is just clinical. They were absolutely ruthless. They were relentless. They were everything that you want your top tier teams to be. They gave no quarter, no inch. There was no, we're playing the Warriors, let's just phone it in. It was a brutal dismantling of the Warriors, unfortunately, for the Warriors anyway. But for Panthers fans, once again, your team delivers and does that jersey proud. They do the area proud. What did you think about this game, Guru?
Yeah, I remember looking at before the game, and I think the start was 32. And I was going, fuck, they're going to... And then the Warriors came out and played... I thought the Warriors opened up really well. They scored that cracking try through Reece Walsh. They looked like they were there to play. And I sort of thought, oh, geez, maybe this will be a little bit closer than what I thought. But then just as soon as Penrith start to click into gear, they just can't stop them.
They just put them on... It's such a strange team to watch because, it's like you look up and it's like, oh, shit, it's 20-6. But it doesn't feel like that in the game that's what... And I believe it's because... Whenever they get a chance, they take it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of other teams, they'll dominate for 20 minutes, miss 3 or 4 opportunities, and then they'll score. And so it feels like, well, they've been dominating, but they deserve to be ahead by X amount. Whereas Panthers, as soon as they get down there, boom, they're scoring tries.
Yeah, well, I sort of felt like when Brian Toto crossed for his second, that was nail in the coffin. It was just, there was another 40-odd minutes to go there. I thought the Warriors had been okay, but you just knew at that point they weren't going to find a way to get back into it.
Was that first 20, the Panthers had 4 errors inside the Warriors' half, and that was what was stopping them from putting the points on. But as soon as they cleaned that up, it was just fucking game over. Timmy, what do you think about this game?
Look, Penrith are just sitting and waiting for finals to come around, and that's not in a negative way. That's they're just, even with key players out, they're getting back to full strength now, minus Nathan Cleary. They were able to rest Liam Martin on the weekend. There was no Scotty Sorensen, but it was a game that it was always going to be so one-sided no matter what the Warriors threw out. The Penrith had the minor premiership sewn up. They collected the shield on the weekend. They could easily have come out and won that, 26-6 or something, and no one would have blinked an eyelid, but in Penrith fashion... there was no complacency. They came out, put them to the sword after a slow start, and they're just, it sounds like they're going to rest up to, if not more than half their squad this
13
week.
players.
13 players. And they're just waiting to get Cleary back and go. Week 1 of finals, we are fresh, ready to go. At this stage, look like they'll be near full strength. Good luck stopping them.
Yeah, it's such an intimidating thing, for other teams. An angry, rested Panthers side. It's just
And you look at this weekend's action where we mentioned the teams 4 through to 7 that are all playing each other for such big things on the line. They're going to belt the living shit out of each other, and they're going to be sore going into week 1 of finals, and Penrith resting nearly their whole side.
Yes.
That's daunting.
Yeah, and the standard that they set at that club, it's every... how often do you walk away from a Penrith game and go, oh, Penrith are terrible? They just never are. Even if they get beaten, it is a grind usually. 16-0, I think that's the biggest margin they've probably been beaten by in a while. And they were in that game, they just, they were attacking their line constantly. It was just a Storm's crazy defence that I think they had 70% of the ball in the second half.
Without both their halves as well.
Yeah, without both their halves, without Fisher Harris, without Dylan Edwards. I think, that was the game without those guys.
Yeah.
So look, the Panthers is just... they're the benchmark. They're just so dominant. They're so dominant. And they're exciting to watch. You've got some real good superstars on the edge there. They keep delivering and keep bringing up the next guy, and he keeps killing it. I think he had an error or two, but an error, so he only had one, and it was at the end of the game. But Chris Smith, I thought he ran some really good lines on the edge there. Isaiah Yeo, far out, he just goes about his business. He's so good. They're scary. They're a scary side.
Shout out to the North Sydney Bears in New South Wales Cup this week who play the Panthers in the first week of finals. Panthers of which they're going to have to send their whole reserve grade side to
yeah.
this week. They couldn't have worked out much better for them.
You'd be stoked, North Sydney Bears.
That's worked out very, very well for them.
Absolutely. Out. It's going to be interesting to see how the Penrith Panthers essentially a reserve grade side goes in first grade.
I think we know how they'll go. Do you play Jerome Luai this week or not?
I probably would just to get match fitness in him. It's interesting because you give 13 players a rest, but do you want to lose the momentum?
I got a question. Do you play Dylan Edwards just in case he's close to that Dally M?
Oh, that's a good question.
Put it this way: 2 years ago, when I know it's his son, but when it was the Bulldogs round, it might have been the 20 game year, the COVID year, and I can't remember if they had second sewn up or might have been minor premiership. Did they win minor premiership 2020? Panthers?
I think they did.
Yeah, I think they had, and they had it sewn up. And they played the Doggies, and the Doggies were enormous outsiders, and you're sitting there going, Ivan, just rest your players. Like, you achieved nothing out of this. And all the talk was they went and played the Panthers played his nearly whole side, and you're going, he wants Nathan to get the Dally M.
Yeah.
So for the same reason, maybe he does play Dylan Edwards.
Yeah, that's interesting.
In saying that, if you rest nearly a whole side and play Dylan Edwards, what hope is he up in Townsville of getting points in this game? But it's Penrith, isn't it? God, who knows what will happen.
Far, because you imagine if he misses by 2 points or something. God.
You've just got to look at the bigger picture, don't you? And
sure.
I've said it before about Ivan, where I think he's been a little bit short-sighted, and that was one year in particular. But, like, it's the big picture. It's winning the comp.
Winning the comp.
I'm sure Dylan Edwards, for example, would be fine with being rested with the rest of them. Like, Anyway.
And the chances are, like, is he really going to be 2 points off? Like, he's probably... Hines and Hunt are probably fighting out the top there. I mean, maybe he is close. I don't know.
Yeah, but Hines and Hunt, I don't think they would have collected many points over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Like, Hines and Hunt wouldn't have got anything last weekend, I don't think.
No, Hines was great last week.
Oh, I think Moylan would have been man of the match. I think Nakora would have got points in front of him.
I think Hines was in my team of the week last week.
Against Manly.
I mean,
Manly.
this week.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
week this week. Sorry. Yeah.
He would have got 3 against Manly,
Yeah. But I think Edwards will be
there or thereabouts.
Close, yeah.
Going to be interesting. I mean, he's definitely a smoky. There's no, like, I 100% believe that. But, yeah, wow.
There was that game against the Bulldogs. They rested Dylan Edwards. Their centres were Tyrone May and Brett Naden, so they rested both their centres. They rested Kickout as well, but they did play Nath for the entire game, and he killed.
Played 80. Yeah. And Luai played 80.
Yeah.
Far out. What about Naden and May in your centres? It's not a bad centre pairing for, like, your rested.
How much worse could you do?
Yeah, right. Fucking hell. So, look, Penny Panthers, just amazing. Api Coruscant, he's just so crafty around the ruck. They're going to miss him. Look, it's it's going to become like the Storm thing with the Panthers, where the logic is, how are you going to replace a guy like Api Coruscant? That's the logic. But they'll probably, defy logic. But I've just got to be honest, the way I feel right now, and I'm happy to say I was wrong, but I think that, like, how they're going to replace Api, I don't know, because their run, and it's not just Api that did this, but their run coincides with Api coming to the club. Before that, Cleary was really good, but he needed a good 9 to release him, and Api has done that. And I just wonder, is that going to be their little hiccup in the next 12 months?
Sorry, just to revert back really quickly, as you just said, imagine having Naden and May as your centres. Guess who their 14 was that day? Matt Burton, who was the Dally M centre of the year, the year after.
Fucking hell.
Fucking unbelievable. But yeah, Api, I think he's been the real turning point of this entire franchise. And it's crazy, he was meant to sign with Canterbury, 11th hour.
Well, they literally basically announced it. I remember I put up a post, and I never do that. Like, I always wait to make sure
It's the official.
It's the official. And then it was like at the last hour, Penrith got him. So it was like agreed to everything. And then he must have said, yep, nah, and he backflipped.
Yeah.
Well, not backflipped because he wasn't done, but,
I remember when I had Nath Clear on my podcast, I said, who matters more to you, Isaiah Yeo or Api? And, he's mates with them both, so sort of blah, blah, blah. But I remember he sort of said to me after, he said, fuck yeah, absolutely stumped me with that one. Yeah, absolutely stumped me. Like Isaiah Yeo then and now is considered the best 13 in rugby league. Api, I don't think most people would consider him best or top 2. I think most people would have other guys.
I think there are some out there though. Like
there would be some, but I think like when you compare him to what Isaiah Yeo and the impact he has, like for Nath Cleary to be that torn on that one, says a lot about him.
I just fuck. How are they going to replace his craftiness? And I know I'm going to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, well, I don't know I'm going to be wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't be saying it. But their Penrith system is so fucking good. I'm sure they'll find a way. But he's just so important to their attack. Without Api, do they go on the run that they've gone on? I don't know.
I don't think they'd win either or feature in either of the grand finals if they never signed Api. I really don't.
And that was the one thing that Penrith were missing for quite a while, was just a really specialised number 9. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there.
They've got young guys there, but you can't replicate what Api can do.
Well, it's just like you can be the best young guy coming through, literally number 1 in the country, but unless you've proven it on the big stage year after year, there's no certainty of what you're going to deliver. Another one is kick out. I do think it's like when the Roosters lost Latrell. Like a lot of people are like, yeah, it's a centre and we've got all these guns, so it's going to be good. We've got Joey Manu. But I believe, and it was also when Cooper Conk was retiring, but I believe the Roosters did miss Latrell's game match win, like the amount of games that he won for them. And I thought there was a lot of big games the year after that Latrell would have got them out of.
Yep.
And I think Kickout, not the same as Latrell in regards to winning big matches, even though he has probably done that. Just sometimes when they need to get the ball rolling, their attack isn't working that well and things aren't going their way, Kickout will just be the guy and they'll just throw it to him. He'll do something incredible. And it's almost as if they go, oh, there it is. And then they just kick into gear and they do that. And I wonder, you can't replace Viliami Kickout's body, his size, there's money can't replace that unless you can find another incredible freak of nature, and you're not going to find that. So Kickout and Appy, it is going to be a bit of a loss for him.
Yeah, I think Kickout's going to be a big loss. I think, he's obviously the biggest guy on the field, the most damaging, but mate, just the hands that he's shown this year and the way that Luai can look at him and just give him a look and say, whatever shape they want him to run, and he can just fall into it in an instant after, he's got his ass hanging out half the time because he's exhausted because he's done so much work. But then all of a sudden he can just fall into shape like a second 5'8".
Yeah.
It must be a nightmare to defend.
I was going to say, even the times he doesn't get the ball and he runs the unders line, there's so much more man, I have to stay on him because if I don't put everything behind tackling him, he's going through.
And when now he starts to add a kick to his game.
Yeah.
It's how do you defend him?
He's incredible.
I love what they've done with Kickout this year in particular, where in past seasons he's been a 60 to 65 minute player, and you were like, it probably made sense with him because he's a big boy. You didn't want to gas him out. You didn't need to play him 80 minutes. But in those years, he got through probably a higher work rate in those 60 to 65 minutes. He's an 80-minute player this year, but he's taken a step back in that, he doesn't have 20 runs a game, but his involvement when he does are so efficient. So they're getting him. They've got him available at all times when they need him. If they need something to spark them up, they can hit him, and he's always there. He's never on the bench. It's great. But he's just, they're managing him.
Yep. And also their ability to put him in the positions that suit him the best. A lot of other teams, I just use the Titans for example, and what's ironic is we're actually starting to see Fafita used a little bit better. He's actually getting short balls off people and running at pace. But the Titans for so long, they just weren't putting Fafita in good positions. Whereas Kickout is always getting the ball on a good unders line or on a good overs line. There's a play set up for him and everyone's hitting their assignments. And you look at their back row next year, it's probably going to be, you've got Hosking coming down, you've got Tigers player coming across, Garner coming across, you've got Martin and you've got Sorensen, I think. And although that is a really good back row, it's a lot less scary of a back row.
Yeah. There's also like guys coming through. We saw him in the preseason, how impressive he was. There's also the other option that, I don't think they'll do it anytime soon, but eventually I wouldn't be surprised if Tungo does end up in the back row.
Yeah, he's aggressive enough.
If they can find another gun, if Taruva explodes next year, I wouldn't be shocked to see a world where they maybe shift around. I think they'll keep.
I wonder how he goes size-wise though, because he's big, but he's not that big.
Yeah, well, obviously, playing in cup footy the few times he played in the back row and when he played first grade last year, he well and truly handled himself. Whether he can do it for 25 weeks.
Yeah, that's more like if he's sitting there for 70 minutes and you've just got big boppers running at you. Yeah. I wonder how he'd go. And I'm not saying it's above him at all. I guess that would be the only question mark would be his size, but he's a goer for sure. Warriors, I guess, will be quick because there's not really that much to talk about. Adam Vanilla Blake did really well for the stint that he was on, played for 62 minutes, 138 metres. But outside of that, it was just really not much going on, to be honest.
I mean, we saw what we saw a couple of years ago from Eli Katoa in a little flash there of what he's capable of, but unfortunately he's leaving.
Yeah.
Not really a heap to touch on here. I thought Reece Walsh had a good crack. I thought his first try was sensational. I'll tell you, I still don't understand why Chanel Harris-Tavita's
being played.
And that's nothing against Chanel. I think he is the best 5'8" at the club, but he's not going to be there next year. Your season's done. I understand if you're playing for the last game at Mount Smart, maybe there's a bit to it there, but the last few weeks, am I being unfair?
Especially when Dion Arcee, who looks like he'll be the half next year, was so good in the games that he played.
I thought he was at the very least solid.
Why would they drop him?
I don't know what's going on there. Then you got Volkman.
He's injured.
He's injured.
But Assie is still sitting there not playing football.
But Volkman, was he injured when he got dropped though?
No, he got
Injured in New South Wales Cup, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that all played out, but still, you've got Assie there who's available, who wants to play for you next year, who's locked in.
How vital would these games be, getting him under his belt going into next year?
It's night and day. Like, he goes into next off-season feeling like a first grader.
Yeah.
Now he still feels like a fringy, you know, am I going to do this, like make it, am I not? It is. It's really strange. Outside of that, look, Dynamis Louis' first 20 was really good. I thought the Warriors were really good the first 20. Like, give him raps for that. It's just a matter of obviously doing it for 80 minutes. But yeah, I thought Dynamis Louis was pretty good for that first 20 minutes. His first stint, at least, was really good. The only thing is he only got 30 minutes. So it's like, goes really well the first 20, and then he only got 10 minutes or so. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's injured or something, or a head knock.
See Josh Curran finally playing some minutes.
Yeah.
Well, all it took was both back rows out to play minutes.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Outside of that, there's really not much to talk about, unfortunately. With Tenny Zalesniak, ran for 122 metres, had a few errors though. Kossi, 120 metres, had 3 errors though. So there's really not much to talk about, unfortunately. Anything else, boys, with the Warriors?
Going back to Mount Smart next week. Good way to finish.
I think that'll be good next week.
Close a chapter of the last 3
years.
I
think they'll actually be quite good. The Mount Smart last game, I think they'll actually be quite good next week.
There was a thing the other day that I think it was Vodafone New Zealand.
Yeah, they
brought out all the tickets.
Bought out all the tickets, also you essentially for free.
Yeah.
And also they signed as their major sponsor as well.
It's good to see.
Which is really good.
Against the Titans too, it's winnable.
Oh, for sure.
It'll actually be a good game.
I think it'd be an enjoyable, fun game.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can bounce back next week. Lindsay Collins getting 4 weeks. We didn't really talk about it. Do you think it deserved 4 weeks?
I didn't think 4 at the time, but did prize and everything go into that, or is that just...
I just shared.
Yeah. He's had 3 charges this year. This is his 3rd one.
His 3rd charge.
Dangerous contract charge, If his record was clean, he would have got 2, I'm 99% sure.
Okay, well, that makes more sense then.
Yeah. Timmy?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I find that players get suspensions with clean records that I find are way too harsh all the time. Rugby league being a physical game, it really stirs me up. But when they're prior offenders and they've done it and they've had chances, I'm not too bad.
And in regards to the hip drop, I've actually seen some players, I don't know if you have, go in and go, nah. So it is working. Again, I don't have evidence. When I'm watching a game, I've watched some players, you see them come flying in to like tackle legs, and then they stop and they go, and they just grab like that. And look, they may lose the tackle, lose the momentum, but hopefully it's a tackle that's got to go. Now the Roosters, some of the report was that Roosters higher up were a bit frustrated because they showed evidence, I don't know if the Roosters did, but Fox showed evidence of like Kafusi allegedly hip dropping, and there just was no injury on Tokiaho. The tough thing is that's gonna happen, but we just gotta. This is a situation where I kind of do think injury does play a bit of a role because it's such a grey, weird area. If we started suspending blokes for not even an injury and nothing happening, it's like we'd be suspending, So I understand the Roosters' frustration though. It's like because only reason why Lindsay Collins is getting pinged for 4 weeks or whatever is because of the injury, but. I just think we've got to do whatever we can to get that tackle gone.
Yep, I agree.
It sucks for Lindsay, really does. But I've watched games over the weekend and seen players go in and stop and go, whoop, not going to do that. And even like there's been times where I've watched, the crusher, like that's pretty much gone now, the crusher tackle. And that's because players, you see them in tackles and they go, oh shit, and they like step out of the tackle. And so hopefully we can get there. With the hip drop because it's got to go. Got to go. Now on to this Storm v Roosters. Don't forget quickly, guys, Bloke jersey, 6 p.m. Wednesday. Be there. They're going to go like hotcakes. So 6 p.m. Wednesday, set your alarms. Bloke jerseys dropping 6 p.m. this Wednesday. Now on to Storm v Roosters. What a game of footy. Had everything. Had drama. It had brouhahas. It had the big forwards going at it. Had skill. It had a really, really good game of footy. As I said, I think this was a game where people needed to see other Roosters just, beating lesser teams or are they the real deal? I think that the Roosters have announced to the competition they are the real deal. Thoughts, Guru?
Yeah, I'm going to have to wear this one. I think they're back now. I thought they were running out of time, but shame on me for questioning Robbo just quietly. 18-4. I personally thought that the Simbinning of Maria Hargraves sort of got the Storm back into this game a little bit. I thought the Roosters were the better side throughout the entire contest. And it wasn't easy for the Chooks. They had to swap Suali'i. He came to the other wing. Manu went over to the right wing. Like it didn't come easy for them. Obviously, they lost Victor Radley late in the fair, which was terrifying to watch. We'll get to that soon. But, yeah, mate, I thought the Roosters were very impressive. I think the form of Luke Keary at the moment, the last 2 or 3 weeks might be the best footy he's ever played, I think.
Played some pretty bloody good footy.
He's played some great footy, but the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think he's been like that game against the Tigers. Granted, it was a big win and whatever, but he was just in control and he was just pulling the right plays on every single play.
It's just really interesting because, I made the point a while ago how, you have a tendency to go, well, he's our experienced guy and he should be the 7. And I think a lot of Roosters fans thought at the start of the year, like, of course he should be the 7. He's the experienced guy. He knows how to get around the park. But then when you actually look at it, you're like, he actually hasn't played much 7 at all. At all. You obviously got Kruger Cronk, then you got Flanagan, then he was injured a lot of last year. And just ever since he's been moved back to 6, he's been outstanding. And
there's nothing wrong with being a sensational 6. Like, you need it. Like, and you even look back to that grand final where Cooper Cronk was running around with one arm. Like they knew that they needed Cooper Cronk out there to lead them around the park because it freed up Luke Keary just to do his thing.
Yep.
I mean, it's so evident now that we see it and it looks like it works and stuff. But, yeah, I remember in the preseason sort of thinking they can't play Sam Walker as the main guy, surely. But it's just how talented this kid is.
Yeah. Timmy?
Yeah, just with the coaching that Guru's just touched on, you just should never, ever, ever doubt these champion coaches, should you? Like, this was such a cracking, high-quality game of football. And Craig Bellamy and Trent Robinson have their sides peaking when it matters. It doesn't really matter what you do before the final few rounds of the seasons and into the final series, but they've got these two sides absolutely humming, and it's like it shouldn't be any shock, should it? We're like we'd all be guilty here of at some stage or another saying might be lying through the Roosters or it might be lying through the Storm, and here they are putting on an absolute clinic. So it was a wonderful, wonderful game of footy. As you said, that Roosters had to contend with losing Tupou, which caused some changes early on, and like dissecting it, there's a million different avenues, isn't there?
Oh, mate, seriously. Great game of footy. We'll talk about the Roosters first. As you just discussed, Keary's been outstanding. I think Sam Walker, I put a little post up about it, but, when you actually look at his stats and, basically since he's moved back to 7, they've only lost 1 game. He's basically got a winning record of about just under 90%. So I think it's like from their last 8 games, he's won 7 at halfback. And the only one they lost was to Penrith Panthers, away at Penrith. And it was that game where a few tough calls went against the Roosters and they really could have won it. So to think that Sam Walker's at 7 has defeated the Storm and the Storm and a bunch of other teams as well, obviously 7 game winning streak or whatever that they're on. On top of that, like to think that he took it to the Penny Panthers all the way back then, his maturity, the way he's rounding out his game, like you're not going to see, or you might see still the flashy stuff, but it's all the little things, like his kicking, his meters has nearly doubled. He's taken control of the kicking, and it spells a really good future for Sam Walker, because I think a lot of us all sat here and thought, like, okay, there's the wonder kid, there's a kid that can get the try assist, there's a kid that can do all the crazy stuff, but can he mature enough into a leading 7? And I think that a lot of us thought, I don't know whether he can be the guy to lead an NRL side around the field, because you don't usually match that flary, crazy trickery with steady, good 7 that can just lead you around. And I think that it's good signs for the Roosters that this kid's going to be there for the next 10 years. This is his 2nd year. We're talking about in his 2nd year, he's taken it to the best teams in the comp. And right now, it looks like that they were challenged for a prelim at the minimum, and maybe even a grand final. So really, really good stuff. Then you've got Suoliti on the edge there, far out. He loves it. Like, he loves it. The amount of work that he gets through, and also just the energy at which he attacks his work, super, super impressive. Manu, as always, amazing. The Roosters are looking absolutely red hot, and it's looking like the Lodge purchase mid-year was a masterstroke.
Absolute masterstroke. It's exactly what they needed for that moment, and it's a better signing now that Lindsay Collins is going to be out until the grand final if they're going to be there. Having Lodge there is massive. You mentioned Sam Walker. The other thing that I think is going to become super important over the next few weeks, he goal kicked at 54% last year. He's at 77% now.
Yep.
He's improved out of sight. You look at the points, the goals that he's kicked over the last few weeks, like 4, 5, 4, 12, 3. Like, he's kicked at 77 this year. I reckon at the moment he's kicking at around 85.
Yeah, which is crazy because honestly, watching last year, I was like, he doesn't have the mechanics to be able to do this. Like, he was like barely making the distance of the conversions. I'm going, how's this kid going to be a kicker? He must have absolutely worked his butt off to be able to do what he's doing.
Says everything about his character, doesn't he? That in such a short space of time, he's able to turn that percentage around.
And I think actually in the preseason we talked about one concern with the Roosters is they didn't have a kicker. And then this kid is like very easily could have said, you know what, I don't want to be the kicker, Robbo. Like, and maybe he did go and say that. I'm not sure. Maybe he did go and say, look, I'm not comfortable. And maybe Robbo put an arm around him and said, mate, you're going to be our kicker. We'll work with you. We'll get it right.
Stood up to they actually started Cameron Kamitha on the edge, but they played Big Nelson, got him running wide again at times as we sort of anticipated running at Sammy Walker. He stood up to him
only missed 3 tackles.
Yeah. And he got him right onto him, not one-on-one, I shouldn't say, but close enough to it a few times. And Sammy just got down low as he does, chopped him, and he did such a good job.
Yeah, even the try-saving tackle on Bromwich. It's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go. Game's on the line. One-on-one tackle. They hit Bromwich on a sneaky little overs line to isolate Sam Walker. And Sam Walker with the perfect tackle around the legs, like old school, chopped him. Try saver, and as absolute, and also you could argue a game winner because it's 18-14 and score. Outside of that, you got guys like, Nat Butcher, who just gets about his business, 38 tackles, 0 missed. They're just looking red hot. I will say, Victor Radley, that was, really confronting to watch. Now, NRL Physio came out and said that, according to the doctors that he's spoken to, that's actually not, like, a knockout is bad. Like, there's no, like, a knockout's bad. But whether you convulse or you don't convulse is actually not a sign that the knockout's worse. So that's the positive that, like, there's no positives in the situation. But the silver lining is the convulsions that he was having aren't a sign that the more damage has been done. Apparently Victor was up about talking straight after it. I would say, though, he should not play this week. Like, it'd be crazy for him to play this week. There's nothing to gain, essentially. They're already in finals footy. I think his dad's already been asked, and he said, I think that they should rest him. Absolutely should rest him. Like, it was a bad bad knockout.
Yeah, it was. I think confronting's a good word, good way to put it. It was scary to watch.
Do you like? It's another example of, like, all these people like, oh, just tackle down low. Like, the game's changed. Like, it's almost more dangerous to try to hit low like that. Now, you can do it in a way where you're kind of falling, kind of like Sam Walker's way, where you fall back with them and hold their legs. But to try to hit hard like that low, it's a dangerous, dangerous game. You get your head in the wrong position just once, you're out like a light. Like these, go back even watching the early 90s, like, the forwards were nowhere near as big as they are now. Like, they may have been as big a frame, but the muscle mass that is on these forwards these days, it is like night and day. Seriously, night and day.
On top of that, you go back to the 90s as well, and obviously the bigger athletes, but the time between play the balls and you making your next tackle, it's cut in half. Like, they're over the advantage line so quickly now, and it's like I'm shocked that there aren't more guys that end up with their heads in the wrong spot. How quickly they have to.
It's because no one goes low anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, take out the injury side of things, like, fuck, it's hard to go low anymore because all these guys have got such great offloading ability.
And their fucking legs are like tree trunks.
It's, yeah.
And that's the thing, like, you know, back in the day, you know, and this is, never want to be a person who's like, oh, back in the day they weren't great. That's not true. Those players back in the day, if they had the science that we have today, they would be just as competitive. You know, maybe you could make the argument as the game has opened up and as we're getting bigger players in, you know, a lot of more Polynesians with more opportunity, you could make the argument that they have, it's harder to make a team today. Yep, sweet. There's no denying that. But the best of back in the day with today's science would still kill it. In saying that, they didn't have today's science. They didn't have today's gym. All the gym and stuff that they do, like, back those days, you'd walk in, throw a few weights around, then you'd get out in the footy field. I mean, they didn't even do wrestling back then. So it was almost just like, it's just night and day. The size of players, like, I would love to find out a way if you could compare like the PBs in the gym now across the board compared to like across the board what they were doing in the gym 20 years ago. And the science wasn't there, the information wasn't there for the players, and also like, we only really fully went like full-time professional after Super League, didn't we? Like, as in full-time big squads.
Full-time, yeah.
Like, we had full-time players before that, but like big squads of 25 people. To go low these days, it's almost you just can't. Like, you don't get rewarded for it by the ref. You don't get to hold on. You got to let go immediately. But also the chance of knocking yourself out, like with a big bopper run like that, mate. So hopefully, it sounds like he's recovering quite quickly, which is really, really good signs. But outside of that, the another one I want to talk about, what about Connor Watson? How stoked would he be right now?
Yeah. And a few weeks ago, he was the guy that I was like, they're just trying to fit him in and they're trying to play him for big minutes. And I just think they need to be a little bit stricter on how they use him. And I think that he's just been given a very simple role, a short amount of minutes just to go berserk, and he's nailing it. It suits him so perfectly. And credit to Robbo, because it is a hard balancing act. Like, I think there's a lot of other coaches in the NRL that would have really struggled with trying to work all this out, getting the best out of Manu, Watson, Bradley, all these guys. He's done incredibly well. I mean, I was just having a look at their season so far, and round 13 to round 16, they didn't win a single game. They lost to the Raiders, Storm, Eels, Panthers. It was the Panthers game we spoke about where they got a little bit unlucky. That's where they moved. You right?
I was just looking at what you look at, because I was like, what do you look at compared to what I look at?
All right.
Are you just on NRL.com?
Yeah. He freaked me out.
I just know what you're bloody looking at over there, boys. It could be anything.
But yeah, like they lost 13, 14, 15, 16. It was round 16 where they moved Sam Walker to halfback instead of 5'8". Since then, they've won 7 games in a row.
Yeah. Well, but he was halfback for Penrith as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, as we said, he got unlucky in that one.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
It's incredible, the turnaround. And they've won all these games by a fair whack as well. I mean, this is the closest game they've played in a couple of weeks.
Like, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people, mid-year, when I was like, they're not that far off. Like, they really aren't. When they went on a bit of a run, like a couple of losses, but it was against, like, the Storm, I think the Eels, the Penrith, like, it was against top-tier teams. And I just could see it kind of slowly coming together. And, like, right now, as I said, like, today, and a week's a long, long time in footy, but today, for me, it's them and the Panthers in the grand final. Obviously, that can change in a week's time. You know, Rabbitohs come out and towel them up. We're going to be sitting there going, fuck, the Rabbitohs are in it. But, mate, they're 7 on a trot.
I'm with you. The one thing that concerns me is if Radley does miss multiple weeks, and, like, who knows, off the back of that nasty concussion. I touched on 2 weeks ago on the podcast about the Roosters' win streak with Radley back in the team and how it had coincided perfectly with Victor Radley being back and starting at lock. With him, and also in turn, we've spoken all year about all these attacking pieces and who's the dominant playmakers and all this, but Victor Radley as that link man seemed to bring it all together. Now with him out, I'm intrigued to see if Connor Watson comes in as the 13 as a more natural ball-playing lock, which seems the obvious option, but I don't particularly like it just because Watson does run around like a bit of a headless chook at times, and I don't think he's going to help that structure. So then outside of that, like they were playing Nat Butcher at lock at a few times earlier in the year when Tupanua was there. They could throw a Taukiaho in there at lock.
I would like to see Hutchinson at lock.
Maybe Hutchinson's the man. And all he has to do is just play as that link, just to provide the good service to Keary and Walker either side. Because, as I said, they hadn't been great this season without Radley. So, as we expect him probably to miss this week. You know, if he has symptoms, he's a long way from being guaranteed week one of finals.
Yeah.
We'll see how they go without him.
Yeah. Look, even if Radley did have symptoms, I can't, like, I think he's so keen to play week one of the finals, I can't see him ruling himself out. Like, you know what I mean?
He'd be ready to rock, 100%.
You know, what I'm saying is like, would he even tell them if he had symptoms leading into week one of the finals? I don't think he would. And look, it's better for him long term if he does. I'm just saying he seems like the kind of guy that old school footy player that will, look, I'm just not going to tell him because I want to play.
I agree with you for the finals, but for South Sydney this week,
he might even try, but Robbo's got to just be like...
I have no doubt he'll try.
Yeah. But Robbo's just got to be like, no way.
I like the Hutcho shout.
Yeah.
That's good. I was sort of leaning towards Takiaho, but I think Hutcho, that could be a really good one.
He played 6 for him, fantastic.
How about Hutcho from nowhere? All of a sudden, he starts at centre over Paul Momirovski on the weekend and other very good footballers, Oliver Gildair,
Kevin Nangama.
He's played in the halves at times. He's been their starting hooker at times. Now we're talking about him as the best man to replace Radley at lock.
Well, it's funny because a bloke messaged me DM and he said, is Hutcho the new Orbo? I said, mate, he's about 10 years away, but it's not a bad shout. It's really not. And he has played a very similar role to Orbo. He's just filling in everywhere and doing a really good job. Now, Orbo's a premiership winning 7, so let's just pump the brakes a bit. But yeah, I like Hutcho at 13. I actually think he can do a really good job. He's actually he's actually body-wise probably as big as Victor.
He's a unit.
Yeah, he's a big boy, Drew. I call him Drew. Sounded weird calling him Drew instead of Hutcho.
It sound weird.
Yeah, it was his fucking name. You know, I would love to see him there because I thought he was really good last year at 6. I thought he was one of their unsung heroes, got the job done. And I actually think at 13, he can maybe even better because his ball playing is probably better than Radley's. And so it might even be slicker ball playing wise. Obviously, you're going to miss so much of the defence from Radley and the good attacking. You know, you're not going to have to worry about Hutcho running the ball as much as Radley running the ball. But I think it could be something that they could look at. And also, with the way Radley plays, it might be worth, you know, bringing Drew Hutcho there because, you know, Radley may seem like he may become a guy that plays, you know, 15 to 16 games a year because he's so hectic the way he plays and his body's not going to be able to handle, you know, 23, 24 games a year or 26 games a year.
Good shout, I reckon.
Well, that's what you're here for.
Especially now that Collins is out, like I think you want Takiaho coming off the bench. I think you want him to come on in about the 30th minute to hold the middle. So
yeah, for sure.
I like it.
Another option is, you know, Nat Butcher. He could lock it up and be kind of an old school lock where he just gets through a bunch of work, kind of Jake Trbojevic type lock.
The other one's Egan though. Egan could come in and do a good.
See, I'd probably put Egan on the edge before I'd put, just because it's such a crucial role. I'd want an experienced guy in that 13 before a rookie. But maybe Egan's more mobile than Nat. Nat's pretty mobile. But yeah, the Roosters, holy, just wow. They completed over 80%. It's all looking good. What do we think about the Hargreaves sin bin, boys?
Thought it was fair.
I thought, like, in the context it was fair, like as in they were literally just told any more niggle than anything, you're going. And then he gets in and starts fucking rubbing eyes and chinning people. But, like, if it wasn't in that context, I'd be like, look, footy, who cares?
Yeah, if it was the first thing that had happened,
yeah,
I can understand not being sin bin, but as you said, he was literally just fucking told. And
I
love that, by the way. I'm all for it. I think I thought it was great. And
he just won the battle. It was a great shot on Nelson. Like, Nelson ran straight and, like, I don't know if he won it, but he definitely didn't lose it. Gets him on the ground, like, you know, that's a win. Leave it. Boom. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, just stupid, wasn't it? So stupid.
Stupid, but so great at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it's why he is who he is, though. You can't, with Hargreaves, you can't love him for that when you need a mongrel in the trenches. You can't be like, we love fucking But then he's going to do that too. Yeah. Otherwise, he's not going to be the mongrel in the trenches.
And it must be worth having, because if it wasn't, Trent Robinson wouldn't keep
Robbo said that's exactly what a forward's supposed to do, set the tone.
I think there's an interview coming out this week that Jake Duke sat down with Victor Radley, and Radley he talks about how he wants to be the guy after Jared, and just the pride he takes in being that guy like Jared. And he essentially says you need a guy that's got some shit in his game. You need a guy that's going to be a bit of an asshole.
It's true.
It's 100% true. You can see how much pride Radley takes in being that next guy.
Because I know Gus always makes a kind of joke about it, but are we making decisions as a game to please the soccer mum or the lawyers or the whatever? And in a similar vein, we try to pretend like that isn't rugby league. We try to pretend that there aren't 17 maniacs running around that are willing to absolutely destroy their bodies. And because we live in Australia, we're so desensitized to rugby league. But if you took rugby league out and you just planted in another country and you said, this is their favourite sport, you'd go, they're a bunch of fucking madmen. And that's we got 17, even the players that you sit there and go, he doesn't run that hard. Do you know what he's had to do to get there? The training and shit that he's had to go through? I promise you, the softest NRL player is still harder than nearly every person there is, outside of other, athletes or whatever. And so, Radley's right. The game is built on the hard men, the tough men in the middle, and you need an enforcer. Every team needs an enforcer.
And you talk about how tough it is. We get NRL physio or injury reports every week. They're all fucking injured.
Yeah.
Literally every single one of them is playing through injury every single game, especially at this time of the year. We just don't know about it.
I promise you, there's not a single player right now running on the field that's played the season that doesn't have an injury that needs either a few weeks off, surgery, or is actually getting needled up to be out there. I promise you. It's unfathomable. By the end of the season, you're so sore. The amount of times when I was playing where I was I don't think I can play today. I'm that sore. But you just somehow push through it. You somehow, and that's why you sometimes, clubs are being a bit harsh, pushing players to play with certain injuries. And yeah, sometimes the clubs do go too far. But the clubs are trying to balance a fine line between pushing you to be the best you can be, but also sometimes realising you've pushed someone too far. Perfect example, I twinged my hammy in a game round 1, round 2 rolls around, and I was like, oh man, I don't know. We did all the fitness drills and I kept saying, I don't know. Then the head trainer pulled me aside and basically called me soft and was like, you need to harden up and play. Warm up rolls around, boom, hammy goes out for 4 to 6 weeks. And there were other times where I had broken ribs playing or whatever. So you do get your bad stories, but in saying that, it's the only way to do it. Because if you start giving in to every player's, I'm a little bit too sore, players will take the easy way out, or they'll not even take the easy way out. They won't have faith in their ability to push through whatever injury it is. So, and
for every bad story you hear, there's 100 good ones where players have pushed through and have been okay. Incredible. That's what you have to do.
That's what you have to do. And again, you're not going to be competitive unless you're ruthless. You're just not. You have to be ruthless. So it's going to be interesting, that interview with Victor. But outside of that, great game by the Roosters. Really good game. Look, if you're being really critical, you could say the Storm had quite a few errors in them. And so I wonder how, the Roosters are going to go against a clinical Panthers that don't, make that many errors. One negative, though, hate to be a party pooper, but the amount of penalties. The game went for so long. So there were 25 penalties all up. If you include the 6 agains and offsides and 25 penalties. Put the whistle away. Jesus. And I think there was another game too where it went for over 2 hours and the commentators were going, holy, put it away. Seriously. That's what makes Origin so great, is that the refs, we give refs shit or whatever, but mostly the refs, ref Origin, they have an ability to know when to blow penalties and when not to, and it flows really well. So, now onto the Storm.
Just on the Roosters before we go off, and I said the same thing about Parramatta, so it's only fair. The Roosters, they've won 7 games in a row here. Teams they've beaten: Dragons, Newcastle, Seagulls, Broncos, Cowboys, Tigers. So out of the current top 8, the Cowboys are the only team that are in there they've beaten on this run. But
Storm.
But that win against the Storm says to me, okay.
Well, that was, again, like last week we were saying, this is the test. Like, this was the test of, like, are the Roosters just winning against the lower tier teams or are they the real deal? And I think they proved it. They're the real deal.
Yeah, same as Parramatta going into this week against Melbourne.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'd say Para are a little different because they've beaten both Penrith and Storm. So it's like, it's hard to say. They could come out and play like bastards and then turn around to Penrith and beat them and play the next week and play incredible. Like, well, have Penrith been on a 7-game win streak this year?
I assume they have, yeah.
No. Sorry, not Penrith, sorry, Para.
Parramatta, right.
Para.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, they're a little bit different. Like, I can see Panthers, oh my God, the Para, Eels, playing busted one week and then coming out and killing it the next week.
Yeah, but I think it's not so much about the 7 in a row for me. It's the fact that, we're all getting a vibe that Parramatta might be back over the last few weeks. They haven't played those top-tier sides, and this will be the test that'll give us a good indication of where they're at. I agree with you. I've said it all fucking season. They can come out in finals and get beat by 40 or win by 40. Could go either way. But I still think this will be a big test for Parramatta, one that I'm looking forward to seeing how they respond, because it's practically finals footy. They're playing for a home. They're playing for a top 4 game.
For sure. Now, onto the Storm. Thoughts on the Storm? I definitely don't think it was something to be too, I guess, disappointed with. The game was there for them to win. 14 errors definitely didn't help their case, that's for sure. They also only completed 75% is okay, but you want to probably be around the 80% in regards to completion. But outside of that, I thought they had a few really good performances. Jerome Hughes had some incredible moments. He also had 16 tackles, 0 misses, 9 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, a line break assist. He is absolutely amazing. But yeah, so I don't think there's nothing to worry about. I actually think that, it's a very, you can be angry and upset if you're the Storm in the sense that the game was there to be won, but it seems like there's very fixable, just a few tweaks here or there. That could have been sorted. They really miss Pappenhausen though, like far out. He would have been helpful on the weekend. Like Pappenhausen's worth at least 4 points, that's for sure. Timmy, what do you think about the Storm?
Yeah, I think all the stoppages in the game probably went against the Roosters against the Storm and played into the Roosters' hands, just because the Storm are, as you touched on, getting back to their roots of being that grindy, gritty side that we've seen in years past. And just all the stoppages just gave the Roosters that time to recompose themselves, where the Storm just go and keep this coming, get quicker. I mean, I don't think they'd be too disappointed in losing the game by just 4 points. It took a phenomenal James Tedesco tackle on Bromwich to stay in this game, which would have been the match win with about 3 to go, conversion to come. So I think they're peaking just in time come week 1 of the finals, and I don't think they were too disheartened by it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also think that, defensively, the fact that they had Roosters on their line for as long as they did is a positive. Plus, they had 6 line breaks to the Roosters too. So, like, the game was there for them to win. They absolutely weren't out of it by any stretch. I also think the fact that they only missed 23 tackles compared to the Roosters' 40. So, like, although they'll be disappointed, it's just the ingredients are all there. Just a few little tweaks. What do you reckon, Guru?
I completely agree with everything both of you have said. I don't really have much to add, to be honest with you. I think it's there. It's just sometimes you're going to have 2 good footy sides that are going to go head-to-head. Someone has to win. Someone has to lose. I don't think there's...
Can they win the comp without Pappenhausen?
I don't think so.
I think they can.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Oh, it's tough. I think for them to win a comp without Pappenhausen, they need Meany to have the best month of his, probably the best month of his career. Doesn't need to be incredible, like by other people's standards, but I think that he needs to pick up a little bit of slack at the back there, because like Munster can only do, at 6 there. So for example, Meany, I think in attack would sometimes sweep as fullback, but then also he'd play at 6 at times. So it's very interesting. But like, yes, he did score a try, but he had 6 runs for 28 metres. 16 tackles, only 1 miss, which was great. But if they could just get a little bit more out of him, I will say also, I don't think that their outside backs have been as explosive as they probably should be. Like when you look at the meters made, 54 meters made by Nofaluma, which is just not good enough. Yeah, not good enough. Then you've got 94 Seve, 85 Olam, and 118 Coates. Coates actually had 2 line breaks, interestingly. So that is an area in their game that definitely needs to be improved, because you look at Daniel Tupu, he played for 13 minutes and he made 63 metres. That's more than Nofaluma.
Yeah. So you're both questioning with Melbourne being able to win it without Pappy, and that's an absolutely fine take. You could be 100% spot on.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And you might be spot on the money, but we don't need to explain how much of a loss Pappenhausen is and going down to Nick Meaney. Nick Meaney's a solid footballer, but he's no Ryan Pappenhausen. This is a team, like the loss of Pappy, while he's good defensively, is predominantly the points they lose in attack. This is a team that's got Jerome Hughes, Cam Munster, and Harry Grant at 6, 7, and 9. You can't tell me they don't have the points through those 3 alone to go through the final series.
Well, like for example, we just read all those stats: 6 line breaks, way less missed tackles, and yet they couldn't get the points to beat the to beat the Roosters. And so I wonder, that's my question of like, if Pappy's on the field, they definitely get the points and beat the Roosters.
Well, they with Pappy on the field there, yeah, exactly. They win that game.
And so
they could win that game by 10 or 12 points with Pappy on the field.
Exactly. And
that does mean they can't win without him, but.
And so, I don't know. Like, for example, the Roosters managed to hold them out at home, and then, then you've got Penny Panthers who, fucking incredible. Even when the Penny Panthers were missing a lot of their players, they still only scored 16 points. And yes, they came up to Brisbane and absolutely fucking towed us. But that's the question in my mind is like, can they score enough points to win a game of footy?
Fair. Like that Tedesco tackle with 3 minutes to go, I think was understated, probably amidst all the chaos that happened in that game.
It was incredible.
It was unbelievable. If he gets that ball down, which you'd think he would 99 times out of 100 except for that tackle, they're sitting there and they've scored 3 tries and they've won that game against a red-hot Roosters. Are we telling a different story? Maybe we're not. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, again, that's why I'm still not in the camp of they can or they can't. That's just the only question I have with the Storm is like, we know they can defend their asses off. Well, it seems like they've turned that around. Like there's a period there where they didn't look like they defend. But the one when they faced the top tier teams, even though they got the win against Panthers and fair play to them, it's just that amount of points. I wonder whether, like Pappy was such a huge part of their incredible run where they broke all these records. And I just wonder, do they have that extra bit of punch at the end? Like they've definitely got the roster for it, but can they find a way? I don't know. Yes or no? It's going to be interesting.
I also think that on top of Pappy, like I look at their team at the moment. Did you say before that Tommy Eisenhuth's out? Is that what you just said?
He's out.
Yeah, for like 6 weeks. Okay,
so all of a sudden, like I think over the next 6 weeks, surely they're going to have another injury somewhere in this pack, and it's really going to test their depth. And their pack is their first choice 8 forwards are sensational. But then we've seen throughout the year that when you get a little bit deeper below that, Eisenhuth's now out, you start to call on guys that haven't had the same punch throughout the year. And if they get through the next 6 weeks without a single injury, when you consider the sort of games they're going to have to play, credit to them. But that's the other worry that I have. Scored 14 points against the Roosters the other night. Yes, that last play they could have scored. They also did score their first try when the Roosters had 12 on the field as well. So I And when I say I don't think they can win the comp, I mean, I don't know if that's a huge insult, to be perfectly honest with you. It's a fucking hard competition to win. You're essentially asking me, do I think they're going to beat the Penrith Panthers full strength, which I don't think they will.
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's really the only question. I think they've really proven themselves defensively over the last few weeks. It's just going to be really interesting. And you'd have to, and like, I agree with Tim in the sense of like, they've got Hughes, Grant, and Munster, and Cheese. You're telling me they don't have guns in their side to score points? So, yeah, really, really interesting to see what they do in that. Then I do think that their backs probably need to pick up the slack a little bit and get a bit of better meterage because it's just so important in today's game. Like they had 6 more line breaks, but they ran for about 200 less meters than the Roosters. And they ran for over 200 less meters, but they had about the same sets. So they had 41 sets and completed 31, whereas the Roosters had 39 sets and completed 32. So to be, 200 to 300 meters down on run meters, are they getting enough oomph out of either their forwards or their backs? I'm not sure. You'd think they'd be closer, but in saying all of that, they essentially doubled the Roosters' tackle breaks, and they had the 6 line breaks. So, are they not capitalising on their breaks enough?
That's what it'd suggest.
Yeah. So, really interesting. I'm not sure where I land on that question, but I think it is really the only question for the Storm. Outside of that, I thought it was a really good performance. Really good performance. Only 23 missed tackles. They're just such a well-drilled side against a team like the Roosters. So good. So, I think both are still a chance of winning the comp for sure. It's just that Pappy question. He's such a big loss. For example, do you reckon the Roosters could win without Teddy?
Yeah, probably only because Joey Manu's like
great.
The second best fullback in the comp, really.
Yeah.
So almost a bit of an exception.
Yeah. So
like imagine if Pappy went down and the Storm shifted Joey Manu to fullback.
Yeah, it's interesting because like they're moving Munster to fullback. It's just that depth in the halves that they maybe are lacking a little bit. In saying that, I thought Cooper Johns was pretty good when he had a shot.
He got injured for a couple of weeks there when he probably would have played.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously they don't need to at the moment, but, do they bring him in? I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably don't need to.
It's, exciting times, though. Storm are definitely still in it. Absolutely. And it just, Bellamy, your point earlier about the great coaches, they just manage to do it every time. Like Robertson, Bellamy. Look, surprise, surprise, the Roosters and the Storm, who have both been through their own dramas this year, that would knock other teams completely off. They get them back on track. So massive, just a testament to their organisations and their whole playing squad. Absolutely incredible. Now, on to Raiders v Manly. Raiders look fantastic. Manly, I am extremely concerned about just the whole club. I'm like, there is so many dramas going on, ex-players coming out that the coach shouldn't be there, pressure on Des, which seems totally bizarre. They are playing like, when we talk about falling off a cliff, the thing that's crazy is like, as disappointed as I am with the Broncos, and this is the point you made earlier, is like they've gone from 14th to 9th. So it's like, the Manly Seagulls have had the biggest fall off of any other team in the competition. So they've actually lost more games. Like they've gone from winning around, I think it was like, let's say 14 games all the way down to, or even less. It was 17 games win last year to 9 wins this year. They have had the biggest drop off of any team in the competition. There is no other team that has gone down the ladder more than Manly. Now you could say, you could argue the Titans, but the Titans have their win rate. They won 10 games last year, and they've won I think 5 or 6 this year, around that mark. So their win rate is not as bad as the Manly difference. The Manly have had the biggest fall off of any team in the comp, and the concerning thing is that it doesn't seem like they're taking it in stride. And Tommy's injured, and they're going to be back next year. It seems like they're looking for heads to roll. It's bizarre. They are, out of all the teams in the comp, I'm not most concerned because obviously you look at the rosters of some of the other teams, but in regards to where they were at the start of the year and to now, they are the most concerning.
I agree with you. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like I'd be saying the same thing I said last week at Manly, except for it's got slightly worse. And it seems to be the same story for the last few weeks. And, the scary thing is that the Canberra Raiders, respectfully to them, they've never been a team to win by 42 points. You've never been that sort of a footy side. You've always been we'll hang in there, we'll play down to opposition. 48 points for the Canberra Raiders to score that against this Manly side. In saying that, if you're a club in a bit of turmoil, is there anything worse than a 4-hour bus trip down to the nation's capital? I'd love to be a fly on the wall of what's actually happening.
Nice drive past Lake George, mate.
But I'd love to see what's happening behind the scenes there, what the training sessions are like, because they just look disconnected from what they're doing at the moment. It's so unmanly.
What do you reckon, Timmy, about Manly?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, which is really disappointing from the jumper gate. They were sort of peaking towards a potential finals appearance, which without Tommy Turbo would have been a pretty decent result. And we talk about how much they've dropped off. I'm not surprised how much they've dropped off because of the reliance of Tom Trbojevic in that side. So in one sense, I'd say, all right, boys, we're not playing finals this year, but next year we'll get Tommy back. And like, if Tommy's there this whole season, they're probably in the top 4 right now. I honestly believe that. But it's also showing so much reliance on one player. So for a bloke with an extensive injury history, you can't bank on him not missing 10 to 12 games next year. He does it week in, week out, season in, season out, outside of last year where he came and strung together 15 or so games in a row. So, I mean, and that's with a quality replacement in Ruben Garrick, who's now gone down. I just think, you boys would have touched on it last week, I'm sure, but we question when the jumper gate happened and all that riffraff went on internally, would Desi be able to get out? I think you and I both said that we thought he could. Guru maybe not as much. And they haven't, and it's obviously rocked them internally. And now there's fingers being pointed, and instead of just keeping things in house and going, you know what, we'll get through this, we'll get to the off season, we'll build, we'll come back stronger next year. They're just capitulating, and it's not a good sign of where the club's at.
Yeah,
it's just, everything's been dealt with so poorly.
That's the thing is like, I can understand them falling off without Tommy. It's like, yeah, okay, your main guy, it's whatever, but it's the noise around it that's concerning me. It's dividing a club. Like they're not galvanising and coming together. It's made it actually worse. Like some of the stuff coming out of there, like, the noise around Desi, it is just shocking to think that anyone would think that Desi isn't the guy to take them forward. Like when you look at the coaches that are available, who do they think is going to take over that joint? Like it's... they've got a new CEO in too, so that's a whole new person there. Then they've got the drama internally. Then they've got the decision to move 4 and on. And Schuster, it doesn't look like that he's taken that next step in his career yet, but he's supposed to be the 6th. This could become a disaster. It really could. It really could. Then you got, Marty putting up videos about not getting the ball, and there's something going on. The playing group is clearly divided. Like, look, we don't know, we'll never know, but the way they're playing, wow.
It's hard not to come to that conclusion. It's
got to be.
Like that Marty's pout, that shocked me last week.
What was it? I missed it.
So basically, maybe a relative of him, it doesn't matter. Someone that knows Marty put together a highlight package and the caption was essentially the reason why Manly are losing. And it was all the times that they passed, like he was a decoy and didn't get the ball, and he's throwing his hands up because he didn't get it. And it was like for 30 seconds or whatever. And it's like, okay, fair enough if your relative thinks that. That's totally fair. Like that's whatever. But then Marty put it up in his story.
Oh, no.
And it was like, holy, I don't know what you gain by putting that public. I'm sure he's talked about it internally, but it just shows and you were asked for a release a while ago. It's a...
And it went up on his story, and it wasn't like it was there for 4 hours and disappeared. Lasted the 24 hours.
Yeah.
He stood by it.
I know it's the external stuff that's more important than the actual on-field stuff in that instance, and the video's way more important. The fact he shared it. If you're a prop forward and you want the ball, it's not hard to get the ball.
Oh, mate, you'll get the ball. Go get the tough carries out of here. I'm not to say that Marty won't do that.
Yeah.
But surely you can get the ball.
Oh.
Surely. And maybe he's got a partial point. I'm not sure. Yeah. It's just the noise around it.
God.
And like you said before, like obviously Tommy's out, that's tough, but I thought they overcame that sensationally well up until 6 weeks ago.
They look fine.
They look great. Like as soon as he went down, I said, there's no hope for the final. 6 weeks ago, I was sitting there going, fuck, I'm going to be wrong on this one too. They've put it together now, and now it's just, I think he was the one shining light on the weekend. Kohler jumping into fullback.
Yeah.
244 metres, a line break. He's
10
been great
tackle
last
breaks.
few weeks.
There's one there, he took a bomb on the run. Like, it was incredible. It may have just been mistiming, but I don't think it was. I think it was the opposite. I think it was perfect timing. Most fullbacks would get under the ball, catch it, flat-footed, then get going. He paced himself so that he was taking it on the run. So when he landed, he was flying. I was like, if that was just like natural instinct, I was like, holy dooly.
He's so explosive. Yeah. In contact, he just seems to just, boom, just hits he's not that big, but just explodes into contact. Look, Foz ran for 160 metres, which is fair effort. Really, really concerned about Manly because it really does seem like there seems the lingering headache from that whole fiasco in the middle of the year, which is like, it's strange because it seemed like it seemed like externally that the players had, understood that that's their beliefs or whatever. They may disagree or agree or whatever, and let's move forward. So I don't know, what dramas could have come from that? That sounds stupid. It's well, of course dramas could come from it. But, I'm sure Desi or sat them all down and said, boys, it's done. Let's move past it. There's no point in living in this week. It's been terrible for the club. But then I just think that also the noise around Desi getting the sack, how does that help the club? How's that getting out? Who's saying that to journos? And then ex-greats coming out and saying that Desi's, past his use-by date pretty much.
I can't believe how they've played over the last few weeks, considering it's the last few weeks with Foz in this team.
Yeah.
I thought that would have really got them up to find something like the game they played last week was Kieran Foran's last game at Brookvale Oval. And they dished up absolute dog shit. And then to back it up with that, it's awful that this is how we're going to remember, not how we'll remember, but it'll be the last memory of Foz and Ches playing together. Well, I think it's been they're one of my favourite halves pairings ever. What they achieved in the early parts of their career, the way that they both played, and for it to end like this, it's very disappointing. It just feels like they're counting down the minutes until season's done here, Manly.
But the concern is just my concern is the long-term effects of this seemingly implosion that seems around the corner. Because if you get rid of Desi, who's going to take that role? Who is going to take that role and do what Desi has done? Bizarre.
You even look at next year, they're going to have to find a new 5'8". I don't know if it's going to be Schuster. I really don't. I've got no idea. We've spoken about this at length. I don't think anything's changed there. But they're also going to have to find a new 14 because Dylan Walker's not going to be there. That's such a crucial position in the NRL nowadays.
Yeah.
It's too real.
Marty Tapau is basically gone.
You would have to assume so. There's going to be a lot of spots to fill in this team next year. It's a lot of important spots, and that's it'll all be band-aided if Turbo can play big games next year. I'm not confident of it though, unfortunately.
And even KO Weeks he was on the bench on the weekend. So if you're sitting there as Schuster, you're going, hang on a sec, why is this the guy that's going to maybe fight for my spot being put on the bench? Yeah, it's a very concerning time. Very concerning time for Manly. Yeah, there's such a fun club to get behind when you've got Tommy there, you've got Jakey there. Obviously, Jake Travojevic being out is a big out, and we've got to mention that for sure. But they've still got a roster to not get beaten 48-6, against Raiders, who are a mid-table team. It's not playing the top-tier teams.
There's a pattern emerging, and it's no Davey, no Manly.
Mate, 100%.
I need the big boy back.
100%. So concerning times for Manly. Hope they can turn it around. Look, the thing, the positive, the silver lining is if there is one guy that can turn around, his name's Tom Travojevic.
Yeah.
So, if he can come out, stay injury-free, this could all just be a bad memory next year. I mean, they proved it in the same year. They started this year poorly. They started last year terribly, and they'd be able to turn it around. So, but the key ingredient to all that is Desi Hasler. And that's what I'm so shocked about is the Desi Hasler chat. It blows my mind.
Isn't it crazy? It was only 5 weeks ago we were sitting here going, Thomas said he'll come back if they're in final.
Yeah.
That's how much they were within reaching distance of it, that they were going to bring this guy, their entire franchise back to risk him because they'd be there. And they look so there's probably 3 or 4 teams in the bottom 8 that look more like top 8 teams than they do at the moment.
Yeah, for sure, which is just crazy. Now, on to the mighty Raiders. The mighty Raiders. I mean, what a game. What a game. All their backs were outstanding, running for, the lowest run meters in their back line was their centre, 138 metres, but he had a try and 2 try assists, and it was the great Sebastian Chris. Seriously, I just think it's fantastic. Ricky's ability to turn this around has been incredible. I feel like I say it every single week, and I apologise, but I just think, obviously he had his little slip up the other week and he said what he shouldn't have said, but I just think he's growing as a coach. There's no way, in my opinion, Ricky Stewart of 3 or 4 years ago manages to keep this from imploding. I think the whole place explodes, but I just think that he's getting better as a coach. He's getting more mature and understanding how to handle different situations better. And and the team's playing for him. Oh, what a performance. What an incredible performance. Tarpanier, he's just week in, week out now playing outstanding footy. And it's easing the burden on a guy like Papali'i. Jackie White and 2 try assists. How good's he? Jordan Rapana. Mate, he's just like, the fact that he couldn't get a contract, had to go to Japanese rugby, comes back, and he's still putting in these performances. He is the kind of player that every team hates playing, but the team's fans love him. You know what I mean? Like Raiders fans, just like he's our guy. He's a bit of a grub. He gets in there, all the dirty work. And you can have those games sometimes where you can have 3 or 4 errors and you're going, Raps, what's going on? But most of the time, he kills it. I'll speak to you first, Timmy. Thoughts on the Raiders?
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier in the show, but just everything we did came off, didn't it? Our execution was perfect. Now, looking ahead to such a vital game for a top 8 spot this weekend and then hopefully a final spot the week after, hopefully there's no complacency that sets in, and there shouldn't be. Ricky's, hopefully got the boys in a position where they know where they're at. They know they need to turn up for this game, but Manly, I think to a large degree we made Manly look poor, but then there's an element of Manly were very poor. So while we put points on, we're going into a game against the Tigers that we should be winning quite easily as well, and we cannot have the slightest ounce of complacency, because if we do, it could cost us a final spot. So, look, I think we'll be okay, but just something to consider. The Raiders' left edge was fantastic off the back of Jackie White, and he's seeing a lot of ball in the halves, obviously, there with Jamal Fogarty. Left edge, him and Hutto Young's combination is just growing the league each and every week. There's a stat for one of my podcasts a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully it hasn't aged differently, but I can't imagine it has. But I think it was 3 of 16 teams in the NRL are more dominant on the right edge and score more right edge points. So it's just all these left edges of teams are so much more dominant. I think it might have been like the Sharks, possibly the Cowboys and Dragons, but just the left edge dominance.
It's usually because of the right to left passes.
It's a large part of it, for
Natural
sure.
part.
For sure. But even at this level where you think it shouldn't matter, it is still so significant. But you touched on Seb Chris, who's blown expectations for me this season. He's a lot better than what I thought he was probably going to be. In the moment of the game for me, Chance Nickel Clock starting New South Wales Cup, breaking down in tears in the warm-up.
Yep.
You talk about Rapper being one of the heart and souls of this club. Well, Chance, to see what it meant to him. They did the haka for him at the end of the game that he joined in on. He just loves this club, and it was beautiful seeing to see him in that New South Wales Cup game.
I'm still not convinced that they couldn't have kept Chance at fullback and blooded Xavier on the wing. I still kind of would have probably kept Chance there and put Xavier on the wing. But yeah, it was such a good sight to see Chance. Any top 30 squad could use a bloke like him. He lives and breathes the team he's in. He's the brothers that he plays with.
He's a beautiful human being.
Yeah, 100%. And he's going to be great for the Warriors. He's going to be a player that it suits the Warriors so much because he's a Kiwi. Yep. He's from there. He's going to play with his heart and soul every single week, which is something that they, not to say that they don't, but sometimes they can come in and out of games, whereas Chance every game, he's going hell for leather. I also think we're starting to see a bit of the benefit of Fogarty and Whiten playing a bit of footy together. We have to remember, they've played, maybe 7-8 games together now? 10 max? These things take time. Also, Ricky, as he always does, chopping and changing. Zach Wolford is back in the starting 9 role. So, the combination of Whiten, Fogarty and Wolford and Savage at back, that's going to take a little bit of time to gel, and it seems like it's slowly getting there. Savage, only had I'm not taking the piss, he only had 1 error, which is that's pretty good he usually has a couple more than that. So he's maturing and getting better. He ran for 226 metres, got a try. Really, really good signs. Guru, thoughts on the Raiders?
Yeah, just on Chance as well. Obviously played New South Wales Cup, 2 tries, kicked a goal, 1 try assist, 2 line breaks, 7 tackle breaks.
Far out.
It's a good way for him to finish. I still can't believe we didn't get to see him again. That's rattled me. I thought
he couldn't get. Anyway, I'm just surprised too.
Considering the bench that Ricky quite often carries, where there's a rogue backline player sitting
Schiller. He'll put Schiller there.
I can't believe that Chance. Anyway,
well, even chuck him in the centres. If he's a gun centre. Anyway,
You've got here fantastic ball from White, and I thought that first pass he threw at Rapana, that might have been the ball of his career so far. That
So
was
good.
tremendous. That's another thing that I just didn't think Jack was going to have in him as a 5'8". It was always my worry. As I've said a few times, Raiders, they aren't normally the team that puts this amount of points on teams. They were the other day. You said everything clicked for them. I just thought, much as it all clicked, I just thought their shape looked so much better everywhere. They looked it didn't look like the Canberra Raiders. I think there was a play where they went down the left-hand side and you had Jack Whiten shifting right around the back, and the timing was just perfect. Like, it's normally a little bit clunky with Canberra. I think the other thing heading into finals is that, like, if they can have... Who do you play this week? Newcastle? Tigers. If you can get up and lead against the Tigers, like the last few... Like, you look last weekend, they only had to play Tapane for 46 minutes, Papali'i for 40, Hudson Young only played 54. Like, if you can win big again and get these guys a couple of rests, it'll be huge for you come finals time. That those forwards, then you can play for big minutes and go nuts.
Yeah, I just think that you're right in regards to they're usually a bit clunky. I think that's all comes off the back of their White and Fogarty just playing some games together, just getting used to each other. I cannot express enough how important that is. It is so hard when you get a new 7 or a new 6. You don't know what they like. You don't know what their timing is like. You don't know whether they like to go deep in the line or pass early or whatever it is. Great win by the Raiders. What about Corey Horsburgh's incredible
I could have
shot?
walked past him and not known who he was.
Mate, just when you thought the bloke couldn't get more powerful, he shaves his head and he's gone Super Saiyan. He is a red icon. 121 metres, 26 tackles, 0 misses, 2 tackle breaks. Things are looking great. Tom Starling comes on, plays 55 minutes, a try assist, 22 tackles, 0 missed. And I like this from Ricky, where he clearly is just putting Walford on there to withstand that first 20, the tough tackles, all that kind of stuff. Then bring Starling on, and I like that rotation. Another guy, Emre Gula, he really just goes about his business and gets the job done. How do we are they making up the numbers, or do you think they can make a bit of a push in the finals?
I wouldn't say they're making... As far as winning a premiership, I think they're making up the numbers, but I still think what's their ceiling? Week 2 of finals? I reckon that they can win week 1, but I think it'll take a lot for them to get a W there. I think week 2 is probably their ceiling. Where do you sit?
Yeah, look, I think being realistic about all of it, we're capable of knocking off... I think we're possibly capable of knocking off any teams in the top 8 on our day, except for Penrith, who are just in a new league, in my eyes, and have been all season. To knock off, like, say, a Roosters and then a Storm type outfit back to back, I think maybe it might be a stretch. So I think if we do get through to the finals, I think that's a very solid pass mark for the season. We were sitting 15th after round 7. So to come home the way we have, deal with a few off-field things that we have, to hopefully make the 8, I think that's a terrific result. If we can then go and make second, maybe to stretch third week of finals, we can look back on the year and be very good. Hopefully I'm wrong and we can go further.
I think the other thing that makes it hard for them is that they're not going to get a home game at any point during the finals. If you could have dragged a team down to Canberra finishing, 5th or 6th, or obviously not 1 or 2, but if you could have finished 5th or 6th, which when you look back on your season, if you just would have jagged 1 or 2 wins earlier in the season, you really could have. Then all of a sudden, it's probably a different conversation. But having to play, that many games outside of Canberra, I think it's going to be pretty tough for them.
As I said, mate, if we get Melbourne week 1 of finals down there, it'll be $1. We love it.
They do love knocking off Melbourne, that's for sure. I'm just looking at their year because I just want to see, have they knocked off any of the top tier teams or at least gone close? So they've beaten the Sharkies.
Week 1, though, Sharks getting their whole squad together.
Yeah, so, just bear with me. Haven't really, lost to the Storm round 5, 30-16. Cowboys, a close one, 18-12. Panthers dominated by the Panthers. They've beaten the Rabbitohs.
Round 11.
They've beaten the Storm. Round 18, 20-16. So... They could do some damage. They've beaten the Cowboys, they've beaten the Sharkies, and they've beaten the Storm. So it's not like they haven't knocked off top tier teams this year. I'd be more concerned if you looked at that and it's like literally no top 4 teams are beaten. Let's say they finish 8th, which they probably will. So that who does they play that first week then?
It's likely to be Melbourne or Roosters Bunnies. So not like it could be any of them three.
Oh, or it could be Eels.
Could be Parramatta.
No,
too.
I don't think it can.
Pretty much can't be Para because South and Roosters for and against is better than Para's. So Para, if they lose, will drop to 6.
Yeah, they're
okay.
4
Yeah.
or 6.
So it could be Storm. It could be Roosters or
could be
Rabbitohs.
If Eels beat Melbourne on Thursday night, we play Melbourne.
It's Melbourne, yeah.
Which is like,
We like that matchup.
yeah, they like that matchup.
Yeah.
So boom, they win their first week. Let's just again, we're just talking. So they can beat Storm second week. They're probably not going to play the Panthers because the Panthers seems to be the only team that they can't fucking get a chance in. You know, their second week could be Cowboys or Sharks.
We can win that.
You know what I mean? Like again, I know people are going to say, "Are you fucking serious?" Like but it's doable.
It's fun. I would prefer play the second place Sharks or third place Cowboys than I would probably the Eels, Storm, and Roosters.
Yeah, 100%.
That's where it's at.
So if you can just somehow get through that first week, you're playing. Are you telling me Raiders can't be the Sharks or the Cowboys?
Oh, it's the back-to-back weeks I'm worried about. I understand what you're saying. In a vacuum, they can beat this team. I think come finals time, when there's pressure on and they have to win back-to-back weeks and they're all away games, I think it's a little bit harder than what we're saying right now.
No, we're not saying. I'm not saying they're going to do it.
No, I know
We're
you're
saying
not.
that they're
I'm clear, yeah.
Like, for example, their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, they've gone 6 from 7. And the only loss was to the Panthers, 26-6.
But they've in that run, there's only one top 8 team in there.
Yeah. But that one type of team, it would be the team they may be playing, which is the Storm.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the last time that they played the Cowboys, 18-12. I don't think they're making up numbers. I don't think they're there to make numbers. I really think that like it's a long shot for sure, but I don't think they're making up numbers. I think that they're a dangerous side to play. They even beat the Rabbitohs, round 11, 32-12. Far out. I wouldn't.
28-20 to Para.
Yeah.
Tight one.
Yeah.
Green Machine ambush coming at you.
So yeah, I wouldn't write them off at all.
We haven't even made finals yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't be writing them off at all. I don't think they're there to make up numbers. I think that they might actually scare a few teams, especially if they land that Melbourne game first week of the finals, and that's exciting. That's really exciting. 6 of your last 7, fuck, that's pretty fucking good. Regardless of the teams that they've played, it's pretty good. Outside of that, any more on the Raiders, boys?
All good. No, all good.
Sharkies versus the Doggies. This was an interesting one because, like, you know, Sharkies looked in control and it was a good win, but were they as ruthless as they could have been? I don't know. Guru, thoughts about the Sharkies versus the Doggies?
Yeah, it wasn't Sharkies' best performance. I mean, they still didn't play anywhere near their best and they managed to get a win. Holding anyone to 0 in this competition's a good knock. I think the one positive take of this for Cronulla is that they won and it wasn't all about Nico Hines. There's other guys that stood up and did a good job. I thought Matty Moylan, his game was sensational. Mulatalo hasn't crossed the stripe in a couple of weeks. He scored 2, was unlucky not to score a third.
What did that coincide with? He switched to the right edge. Outside Nico.
Yeah.
That right edge is a gold mine at the Sharkies.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, Britton Nakora, I said it last night, I think he's been so consistent over the last few months. Good to see him finally getting some attacking stats to fall his way. I thought he'd go huge this year. Brittany's just been very consistent. Now he's starting to get those stats. But yeah, Sharky's not there. I thought being Andrew Fafita's last home game, I really thought they were going to explode in this game. I thought they were going to go really well, but still managed to get a win, so they'll take it.
6 line breaks to 0. Only missed 18 tackles, so that's a really, really good sign. Like, that's actually a really fucking good sign. But their completion rate 64%. So, yeah, if they sort that completion rate out, it's a scary thing they'll be able to sort. Like only, what was it? 18 missed tackles. I think that's the least of the whole round.
So they missed 18 tackles but had 18 errors.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's impressive.
Yeah, 18 errors, 66 as I said, the completion rate was fucking terrible.
Wow.
Completion rate was 64%. And that's why I was like, ooh, I'm not convinced. But, again, that foundation is there. The defence is key. We all know that. Defence wins premierships. When you got 18 missed tackles, and yeah, you could say it's against the doggies, whatever, there's still some hard blokes that tackling the doggies. Just that completion rate. You want to be hitting perfect form now.
The Sharkies took over South this week as the most errors in the NRL this year.
Yeah.
Where are the Roosters on that, do you know?
Yes, give me one moment.
So a little bit of concern in regards to the errors. Like you just can't be doing that in finals. But the good thing is you can fix that quickly. Like that can be a quick turnaround.
Roosters are third. So Sharks, Rabbitohs, Roosters.
And that's the other thing I'd say, that I think with those three teams as well, like at least a lot of their errors are when they're playing footy. Like those three teams do move the ball around quite a bit. So not trying to say it's a positive or anything, but it's probably, I don't think it's as bad as what it probably looks.
Well, I was like hoping that it would be similar to like Para Raiders as well, where they just fucking put the team to the sword. That's what I wanted to see out of the Sharks, just come out and belt the doggies.
Fair.
Timmy, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's what you boys touched on there. Guru touched on with the nature of their attack, which is what I wanted to talk about, because, I mean, 18 errors is too many every day of the week. But I was going to touch on how I love the way Moylan and Nico float and play both sides of the field. They're not stuck on their edges, and I've touched on that before. And I look at the first try they scored, where it was actually Moylan swinging out to the right and hitting Mulitalo with a gem of a pass to score that one on Nico's edge. And I think the expansive way that the halves play, in particular at the Sharks, at the Roosters, and the Rabbitohs, Cody does it as well, playing both sides, it leads to more errors, but it also leads to a lot of points because of the way they're doing it. It's terrific footy to watch. And defensively, it's so hard to defend because you don't have these sort of monotonous robotic structures coming at you, which can be really effective. Like you think of a side like Melbourne, particularly in the early 2010s, mid like 2015, that sort of era, where they're very robotic and their structure, it worked for you. You knew it was coming at you defensively, but they ran it so well that you couldn't stop it. But this is just the complete opposite. Whereas a defensive line, you've got no idea what's coming at you, and I find it a terrific brand of footy to watch. And it does lead to more errors, and it doesn't mean that you can't win games of footy with those high error rates.
Yeah, I think when Roosters, when they went back to back or whatever, they had a pretty poor completion rate.
I think they were top maybe both years.
So it can be a 65 is too low. That's hectic. And to be fair, in their defence, and this is again no knock on the winger who I think was debuting. He did have 5 of the errors. Yes. So if you take that out, you're looking at around 13 errors, which is still not good enough. So they had a rookie winger on the edge who still ran for 184 metres, made 6 tackles, didn't miss any, and had 12 tackle breaks. So he had a fair crack, no doubt.
Just confirming the Roosters did have the most errors in both those years.
Yeah, so it can be done, but I think they were around the 75% completion rate when they won the comp, like in those games, I'm pretty sure. So the good, interesting thing about the Sharkies as well is statistically they got the best goal line defence in the NRL. So like if you could just, you don't have to be the highest completion rate in the comp, but if you could just tweak it a little bit to get around the 75% completion, they're going to be tough to beat, really, really tough to beat. And their attacking structures, it's almost, I'd argue it's as good as the Rabbitohs when they're flowing. I think it was definitely better than the Rabbitohs on the weekend. The Rabbitohs were quite clunky, but it's just so smooth to watch. Moylan and Nico Hines are it's just really enjoyable footy on the eye when you just watch it all unfold. But the positive is, even though they had 18 errors, they still kept the Dogs to 0, and it was 6. They scored 16 points. Royce Hunt ran for 141 metres. You had Brendan Hamlin Uwelli, 104 metres. Blake Brayley, 49 tackles, only 1 missed.
Siffer just goes about his work again.
Mate.
206, 7 tackle breaks, 86 post contact.
Siffer is a victim of his own incredible form.
Yep.
If he didn't come out and have that wild couple of games, every week we'd be going, far out, Siffer is killing it. How good is he? Because he's been putting up, there might have been a bit of a lapse maybe after Origin, but he's been putting up these numbers all year long. I think actually as a centre, he has the most average run meters.
You'd have to, I reckon.
Just all year long.
And we've spoken about it a lot this year with like Isaac Tungo over at the Panthers, how impressive his meters have been every single week. Sifa does slightly more every single week. But you're right, because we get so used to that, really, we know the high ceiling he's got and he's not hitting that, but he's just being consistent as hell. I think he gets the rough end of the stick constantly, Talakai.
And you've got to remember, like, this is his first year at centre.
Centre, yeah.
Imagine how good he's going to be with another few years under his belt, knowing when to come in, not to come in. Like, even little things like timing an out ball with a fend. Like, you're not going to have as many reps if you're a forward. Like, you're still fending as your forward, all that kind of stuff. But a specialist centre, he has spent an extra, 10 years perfecting that. I think, like, Lomax is a really good example, like, perfecting that perfect step with the fend or whatever it is. And I just think Talakai's going to get better and better. I really, really do. He is just so impressive.
There's also been a lot of change inside him as well. Like, all year it's been either Wilton or Wade Graham. They've swapped and changed throughout the year. Moylan on that edge, he's missed footy. Will Kennedy's been out for a number of weeks. So hasn't all been perfect on that side either, attacking-wise.
So, yeah, look, the Sharkies, again, not a convincing win in the sense of, like, when you compare them to, the top tier. But the good thing is the things that are a problem, it's not like they leaked a bunch of points and they won 44 to 30 or something like that. They leaked 0 points, they only missed 18 tackles, and they've got the best goal on defence in the comp. You can work, the little other things are real easy, quick turnaround tweaks that you can get right. Also, you put a post up about it, but shout out to Aiden Tolman. Last couple of games in his career, he makes 39 tackles and misses 0. Like, talk about a bloke that just got his work done every week.
315 games he's played.
Fuck.
What an effort.
In the middle. Jesus.
And never getting recognised the way that he should.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Now on to the Doggies. Again, not much to talk about because they're out of it, but Paul Vaughan, once again, got through his work, got some good stats up. I thought Raymond Fatala-Mariner also had quite a good game. Max King, again, got through some meterage. But I don't know, they just, if I'm being honest, ever since the Potter announcement with Ciraldo coming, it feels like they all just took a bit of a step back and said, you know what, like, Potter's not going to be here next year. We're not going to make the finals. The season's over. That kind of rebuild for next year. Whereas I feel like, again, I don't know internally, but maybe not the threat, but the idea of if Potter's going to be our coach next year, we can't afford to play poorly under him because he's going to be making decisions about who's here. So it's only 16-0. It wasn't a terrible performance by the Doggies, but they definitely have taken the foot off the pedal, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell exactly what's happened behind closed doors, but I definitely get that vibe as well. And it's a long season. It's been up and down for them. It's been exhausting, but yeah, it sort of feels that way to me and kind of makes sense. I don't know. I've obviously never been in a first grade squad, but if you do know that the coach isn't going to be the coach next year,
Still
other
time,
guys
mate.
coming in. Still time. Yeah, I won't give up on the dream. I thought it was interesting this week. If you are Ciraldo, do you keep Mick Potter in your coaching staff?
Ooh, it's interesting because
tough one.
Because even Potter, I think Potter said, yeah, I've been offered a gig. It's whether I'm not sure if I'll take it. Even that, if I'm a head coach, I don't want to hear that. Like, I don't want to hear that you're waiting to take it, are you? Like, it just wouldn't sit right with me as a head coach. I'd be saying, like, you want to be on board or not. And again, I can offer it to you and you can privately mull over it. But yeah, just the public, I don't know. And I can understand Potter's frustration if he is frustrated of, like, he's the head coach right now. And you could argue, like, well, it's a bit, it could be seen as, like, condescending of, like, I'm the head coach and now I've got to go work under you. Even though I don't think that's the case. I think Ciraldo's trying to be, put a branch out. But if I was a head coach and I saw that he said that I'd offered it, but see if he takes it or not, that would pump the brakes for me. Like, ooh, hang on a sec, is there an issue here?
Even when you take that out, if you're Ciraldo, do you want the guy as the assistant that they were seemingly really happy with and played good footy with? Like, if they do struggle a little bit next year and there's a bit of pressure on Ciraldo, I don't know.
It's a case by case situation, because he also could be great. Like, as in to keep that connection to the playing group, because you don't want to. The problem with the hard thing for Ciraldo is finding the balance between being the tough head coach that the players are off because he makes all the tough decisions, and losing the playing group.
Yep.
And so if he gets rid of Potter and the players love Potter, then they might be off him from the get-go, and it's a harder battle for him. But, as you said, if the players love Potter and then they start playing poorly and the players start pointing, like looking towards Potter, and we were doing really well here, so I'm not sure what the right answer is. I'm really not sure. I respect Serraldo for offering that, though. You know, that takes a lot of...
It's big, yeah.
It's big to be able to offer that straight away. Shows respect. I think it shows respect and appreciation. But I'm not sure what you do. Even as Potter, like, I think Potter has proven that he might, I think he's proven that he deserves at least a crack at a first grade job. Because, like, to turn around, like, they've gone from, like, couldn't win a game to really good footy. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I think it'd be great for the entire club if Potter was to sign on and coach as an assistant next season. I think if you're Serraldo, you're taking this holistic approach and looking at the big picture and going, there's a bloke here who took over a side mid-season who were in all sorts, and he turned them into a winning football side who were competitive against most sides in the NRL. You'd be able to lean on that and say, what made them tick? What did you change? What worked? What didn't work in the back end of the season for you? He's got plenty of NRL first-grade coaching experience to his name. You can lean on that as well. And a healthy club is a club where you've got all these coaches and players hopefully in harmony, and there's no, as far as Potter goes, if he does sign on as an assistant, I'd assume nearly every assistant coach in the NRL would have a clause in their contract where if they get a head coach elsewhere, they can go and break contract without any issues. So for Potter, I think it makes sense. For Serraldo and the club, I just don't see how they can't be a better club by having Mick Potter on the coaching staff.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder whether, like, the whole Hook thing at the Dragons is very strange. Like, they seem to back him, but at the same time, there's whispers that they don't. And then they got Flanagan there as well. I wonder if the Dragons are just eyeing Potter to see what happens there. Because, I think I've been really impressed with what he did at the Bulldogs. Now on to the next game. Rabbitohs versus Cowboys. Interesting game because the Rabbitohs played like almost not like the Rabbitohs play, but they played a game to get the win. And they got the win. They got the job done. You have to remember, Cowboys are third. They just beat the team that's third. So although it wasn't pretty, I put it this way. There was a lot of talk on the commentary about they're playing heavily around the ruck and they're being safe or whatever. I just think that's because they're used to Damien Cook being there and Havili being there. It's just like... It's almost smarter to play safe because if he's not used to all the structures and getting to certain points, and also I think that like if Cook was in that position, they probably get more points playing around the ruck because he would have opened it up a little bit more. So a good solid win, a good solid win. Like, did it set the world alight? No. What's interesting though, in the week where they don't, Latrell doesn't have 3 try assists and they don't win by 40 points or whatever, he runs for almost like his most metres. He ran for 175 metres, 5 tackle breaks, 2 line break assists. But the Rabbitohs, I think they deserve a massive rap. We say it every week, but it could have been a disaster this year, and they're in it. They're in it up to their ears.
What the coach has done this year has been incredible, I think. To consider that Wayne Bennett left. I went through on my podcast, I don't have the numbers in front of me here, but I went through and had a look at all the teams that Wayne Bennett has coached and then what happened to them the year after. They all dropped 3 to 4 places on the ladder, and some of them are dropping from 10th to 14th, and I think that Newcastle side went from 12th to 16th. I mean, South Sydney, what's the highest they can finish, Matty? Is it 5th? 5th. Like, considering they went all the way to a grand final, they lost Wayne Bennett, they lost their halfback, they lost Gagai, they brought in a rookie halfback. They're still trying to work out how to replace Gagai. For them just to be sitting where they are, they also made a 24-year-old their captain. Like, I think that decision alone, like that could have caused mayhem at that club.
If they go deep into the finals, prelim, we'll just say prelim, would that justify their Reynolds decision, do you think?
Oh, it's tougher to go close to.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Jeez, great question. I don't know. Throw it to the water boy.
God. I mean, I'd love Reynolds right now. I don't think so.
It's a big turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah. They've made a lot of prelims last year. That's the toughest question you've asked
because
me.
like we do know for sure the Lockyer list has got 10 years in front of him, and so
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no.
No?
I think you see what they're doing now with Ilias, who's
doing.
solid. Imagine what it'd be with Reynolds.
Yeah, I reckon South's a genuine premiership threat, a huge threat if Reynolds is the halfback right now.
With Latrell Mitchell in this form, with Reynolds at 7, Drew?
Yeah, actually, now that you put it like that, yeah, that's fair. I was more so thinking long term down the track, but for this year,
What if they make a grand final?
I was thinking yesterday. In my mind, I almost feel more confident they can make a grand final now than what I did probably at this point last year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because largely of Trell, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. What do you reckon, Matty? Like, I thought you'd. Like, I don't know. I didn't think you had a grand final in you at this point last year.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think last year though, because Souths were in the top 4,
That's true. Yeah,
they were like a better chance, and now we can't even make the top 4. So you got to win 4 games in a row.
What if they make the grand final? Lockyer leads into a grand final.
I'd still sit there and go, well, Adam Reynolds maybe could have won him a grand final.
So there's nothing that they can do really.
They could win a comp.
Like, as in, is anything short of winning a comp make the decision?
I mean, it'd probably come down largely to how Ilias played between now and then. But I don't think I'll not be able to think of it as, but they could have been better with Reynolds this season.
If you win a comp in 5 weeks, are you going to say letting go of Adam Reynolds was the right choice?
Well, yeah.
You will, yeah.
Of course.
I wouldn't be surprised if South Sydney fans don't think so still. Like, he's...
Nothing short of winning a comp, though.
Okay.
Nothing short of winning a comp. But I still think we should have kept him, obviously.
Yeah. Wow.
Lot to play out.
I will say, though, that if they make a grand final, you may not be able to say it was the right decision, but I don't think you can say it's the wrong decision either. I don't think you can say like for example, right now, I think most people would say it's just like, not factually, but it's basically factually a wrong decision. Shouldn't have got rid of Reynolds. But I think if they get into a grand final, you'd have to say that like it's a reasonable thing to say that it wasn't the wrong decision, because you've got a Lockyer list that led them to a grand final. He's going to be there for the next 10 years. And look, yes, they can make the grand final. At the moment, I probably have them like, 4th or 5th down the pecking order. But I just thought it was a really interesting thing, because I think most people think that getting rid of Reynolds was the wrong decision. But, Demetrio has got them in a position where he may be justified. He may be vindicated. Because, like, what if they make a grand final and they win one the next year? You know what I mean? Like, that's the potential.
That's what I was going to say. The question will probably be better in a year or two.
And even further down the track, because letting go of Reynolds, it's going to allow you to keep other guys that, like, someone else. If you would have kept Reynolds, you would have lost probably one of these other big 3 that you're going to be keeping now as well. And he's the oldest out of all of them, isn't he?
I think Cody is slightly older, but they're the same age roughly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a massive commitment to all of them. I personally, there was a large part of me, not majority, but there's a big part of me that thought, fuck, I can see Rabbitohs falling out of the 8. Like, I can see everything going wrong, like someone getting injured, and then I can see Demetrio on the back of the paper, and like just all the negative things of how quickly it can turn for a club, because Rabbitohs are such a big club in the NRL. They've been around for 2 years now in the NRL, which is incredible for the club.
Yeah, honestly, it's such a shame. I'm so angry that you said that, because like after I put that photo of the Cohen Hess thing up, I had so many both Broncos and Cowboys fans, I reckon more than 15, 20, saying, youngest team in the comp. And you can't say anything.
Yeah, because if you buy it, they're like, yeah, got him. Yeah. But it does sting you a little bit. Yeah. I'm literally the focal point of everyone. Like, the Broncos losing, it's my fault apparently. Yeah. It's bizarre that, because I wore the shirt after we lost to the Tigers. Makes no sense. But look, if it's funny, you can enjoy it, boys.
I think that was the other thing that during the season for me, I felt like Jason was constantly biting back at media at the start of the year, and I sort of thought, fuck, this could
Yeah, could spiral.
And you could tell that occasionally Wayne Bennett was just chiming in with a little comment here and there to try and bait a reaction out of him. And it's interesting how it's played out and how he's, come finals time. I don't know if they can win a comp, but I think they're a team I don't want to play over the next 5 weeks.
Yeah. But back to Ilias and Demetrio, it's just funny if we went back in time to mid-June, the day after South got pumped by the Dragons and Demetrio hooked Ilias, to say that we'd be having this conversation in 2 months is pretty
I still think could have been handled better, that situation. And I think that Demetrio, at the end of the day, the facts are in his favour. Like, you've gone on and played really well, but it did seem quite an emotional decision at the time. Like, it seemed like Demetrio was like pissed at him and he took him off. But the facts are on his side. At the end of the day, Ilias came back and he's played really well for the rest of the year, like solidly at the very least. I think Demetrio deserves massive raps. I really, really do. I think he's done the best job of any coach post Wayne. He deserves a rap for that. And yeah, like at the start of the year when he was biting back at the Reynolds question as passionately as he was, I was like, oh man, he is going to be in for a long, long year. But I think he's like matured quite quickly. Not matured. He's gotten better as a coach quite quickly, and he bites back at the right moments. Like, for example, the Wayne one with Latrell, he'll come out and say, well, I don't see there's much of a carrot there because Christian Wolf's going to be a coach in a year. So it's kind of like, look, I can understand why Demetrio's biting back. That's his superstar, and Wayne's going to potentially come at him. Whereas the Reynolds one, it's like, bro, you're going to get that constantly.
And that was round 1, wasn't it?
That was before round 1, I think.
Yeah, and then you played Brisbane round 1, didn't you? Too. So they
played Brisbane round 1, but then lost in like Golden Point in round 2. So could have used Reynolds. Yeah.
So Demetrio deserves a massive rap. He really, really does. I think he's done fantastically with his squad. And it seems like all those boys want to stay. I don't want to give another bloke a shout out. We did it the other week, but Cam Murray, a 24-year-old captain, what an incredible bloke. And just a special human being.
What about his first 30 minutes?
It was amazing. He was everywhere. Yeah. And his ball playing is improving. He made 37 tackles, only missed one, 3 tackle breaks, 161 metres. Just as a young captain, to be captaining this club through a tough time, losing guys like Gagai, and not just players. We're talking about leaders, 2 leaders. Your outside back leader and your actual captain. Amazing stuff by Cam Murray. Tom Burgess was outstanding off the bench. I thought Tane Milne was pretty good off, on the wing. Yeah, he had an error or 2 in him, but he still he still had the meterage that you guys sometimes seem to lack without Gagai there. But another bloke I want to give a shout out to, Campbell Graham. I love the way he plays, and he's never going to get the raps that he deserves for some of the stuff he does.
And to do it heavily concussed as well, mate.
Mate, what about that? How's he coming back on the field? Like, we say we've got an independent doctor, and he gets back on the field. He should that independent doctor surely should immediately be on the phone. It's like, get him off.
And Matty, you can talk more about it. Like, he didn't come off the field and stand at that point and then come back on. He walked all the way up to the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then came.
Was taken off by the trainer, walked to the tunnel, and then, because I was in the crowd, so I just assumed it was a HIA, didn't look at the card or anything. And then, ran back on 3 minutes later, and I was very confused. I didn't realise it was they used the free interchange.
Well, surely the Cowboys are going to use that to fight the Cohen Hess. I mean, unless he's taken the early plea.
Yes.
But it's like, if I hit him in the head, how's he back on? You know what I mean? If there was head contact, how is he back on? We won't go into the tackle. Look, we've been through this ad nauseum in regards to the tackle. Look, it is the way the game is now. That you just can't afford to. If you're a forward and you want to shoot out of the line, you've got to somehow lower your. Like, I was listening to Joey and Freddie talk about it. Them pretty much saying that they want it to still be in the game, but they need to lower their target. But the thing is that if you watch it, Campbell Graham does late footwork, and that's what makes the potential head clash. I don't know whether it was a head clash or whiplash. I don't know, because I tend to think more as a head clash because Cohen Hess was also dazed. But I think as a forward, you kind of have to just let that go, don't you? You're risking 10 in the bin for a big hit.
And it's even like as you just said, like you've got to lower your target. If the player slips or if they edge down or if they force into contact, it doesn't matter anymore. You're high again.
You're gone. And that's the thing with Campbell Graham. Like, he didn't lower massively, but he did step slightly and try to spin out of it. And so, like, I just... And also, if you're running that fast, you know how hard it is to lower your target while you sprint like that and then get low.
You literally see players every week as they come into contact, they do lower themselves.
Yeah.
Not saying it's on purpose to get a penalty, but it's to brace yourself.
It's natural to go. It's not natural to go like this. It's natural to ball up like that. So honestly, I think we've just gotten to the point, and it's sad, but you just can't afford to do it, can you? You just can't.
Think so.
In going into the final series, if I'm speaking to my forwards, I am saying, boys, don't do it, because like, okay, we might change the momentum, but how often has that changed the momentum? It's resulted usually. Well, I know Dale Finucane, he was fortunate enough to get away, but then he missed a couple of weeks. You don't want to be missing a couple of weeks in final series, which sucks. But anyway, Keon, I know we speak about him every week, but far out he's gotten consistent.
And I think guys like Keon, Campbell, Totola, all these guys, they are such a credit to what Jason's done this year with that side now. Obviously Latrell's firing, Cody's playing great footy, but all these guys that weren't their absolute superstars, all these mid-range guys are all of a sudden... They're playing their absolute best. I can't believe how good Totola's been this year.
Yeah, massive.
Can you imagine how much Kalama Tungi would have been licking his lips when he walked out of that field? And initially, you would have thought he was running at Drinky, going, good luck, mate. Eventually, they actually switched, and the hammer, Tabuai Fido, defending hard. Even so, he was been going, mate, not a chance you'll stop me.
Yeah, absolutely.
About 10 minutes to go through.
Straight through too.
And it was Ilias that constantly got him there too.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot in Ilias' game that is never going to be appreciated. He's not going to be that flashy, whatever. But I just think he's in for a special career.
He had a really good forced dropout at 1.2 that was sort of like the way that Thurston used to do it, where he went down the right edge and he kicked. It was probably about 35 metres out. He just let the ball drop on the 10-metre line and just drift into the in goals. Like, just that smart sort of play that, like, you need to have time on your side to be able to pull those sort of things off. And he's starting to get it, Elias.
Absolutely. So, great win for Rabbitohs.
Just one more thing on South. South have only, before last week, have only won 2 games this year by 10 points or less, and they were against the Warriors and the Dogs. They've lost 3 golden point games, one of them against Storm, one of them against Sharks. Lost on the bell against Penrith last week, so I've been struggling to close out tight games. So it was really great to see them win a close game for pretty much the first time this year.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point. If they had done against the Penny Panthers, maybe they get the win. If they played safer, simpler, maybe they get the win.
What's the go with Damien Cook this week too? Is he playing or not?
It seems like it's going to get reduced from 7 to 5, but Volandis came out and said he'll need to pass a rat test, have no signs of illness, so he's got to jump through a few hoops. I wouldn't even bother. I wouldn't even bother playing him, really, if we don't have to.
I hope he plays just for the storyline.
It's like, why are we testing still? Why are we testing?
I mean, they're not really playing for much this week, the Bunnies, are they? They
could finish as high as 5th.
They could finish 5th and 6th. I suppose they're probably better off playing the Raiders than they are a Roosters or Eels next week. But, if they play the Roosters next week, either way, will it be at the new stadium?
I think they'll play at Homebush.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah. They're playing for a home final.
All right, yeah, fair enough then.
Now, on to the Cowboys. This is a hard one. My Jets have called a little bit on the Cowboys, but I just think that's because the Rabbitohs and Roosters have kind of maybe just stepped up a little bit. And that's where I feel like when you look at the Rabbitohs and Roosters roster, you know how they've just got those fucking superstars. And it's not to say the Cowboys don't have some, big players, but they don't have superstars like Latrell Mitchell and Teddy and Joey Manu and Cody Walker.
They're a team.
They're a really, really good team. And so I'm not saying it's alarm bells at all for Cowboys, at all. But the little worry I have is, do they have that extra little step in them to go with the cream of the crop when finals footy rolls around? Now, they may be developing those superstars like Nana. Drinkwater is definitely slowly developing into that. Have to remember they were without Dearden, so it's not like they weren't missing players, but just that little bit of extra special source. I mean, to be fair, they've got Jason Taumalolo, but I don't think Jason Taumalolo is playing the same superstar stuff. He's more become a team player than in the past. They've got Ruben Cotter, who is growing into a superstar, but again, when you compare it to the likes of like Latrell, Teddy,
so different.
It's just a little bit different. Not a bad loss at all, but yeah, the completion rate was down. I think they made 15 errors. Rabbitohs also made 15 errors, so it was about the same. But so it definitely wasn't a bad performance by them. But if you consider yourself a top 3 or a top 2 side even, because they would have gone to second, I think, wouldn't they, if they won that game?
Yep.
You're probably going to have to be able to put the Rabbitohs away, even away from home.
Yeah, and I think what you said at the end there, that's why I'm cooling off them a little bit. I think they're going to finish third, whereas if they finish second, they get a home final week 1. If they can win that, they'd play at Suncorp the week after, wouldn't they, with 2 weeks to prepare. So if they were second instead of third, all of a sudden it's a completely different
For sure.
game for me.
Going up North Queensland to play them.
And then to Suncorp with a week off, it's completely different. You don't have to leave Queensland until
I'd argue that's the best run of any team.
Yep.
Because every other team, you're basically just going somewhere in Sydney. Bringing people up to Queensland,
tough. Yeah, but I mean, in saying that game on the weekend, I didn't think South Sydney played overly well. I think South Sydney will be happy with the win. They won't be happy with the performance. I think that the Cowboys, I mean, until the sim bins at the end, they're only down by 6 points coming to the last 10 minutes. So there are silver linings to take out of it. But I agree with you. I am fading a little bit on the Cowboys the longer we go.
Yeah, and I think also to defend the Cowboys as well, I think the penalty count before those last 3 was like 8-1. So it was a tough penalty count. So it's kind of like everything that could go against them kind of did to a degree. Definitely missed Dearden. There's no denying that. I think Drinkwater is, he's just suited more to fullback, I think.
Yep.
So I thought Leilua was really good. I thought he was good. Defensively, had some misses, but attacking-wise, I think he's slowly growing into his own. He can be a weapon in the final series. Yeah, it's a hard one because they lost, but I'm not. My Jets have cooled, but at the same time, I'm still very high on the Cowboys. I love what they're doing. They've got a fantastic defense, some of the best in the competition, which is what you need to win comps. And they were missing Dearden, and they were on the end of a shocking penalty count. Now, I'm not sure whether it was they deserved it or not, but at the end of the day, an 8-1 penalty count is pretty hard to bloody battle. What do you reckon about the Cowboys, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm a bit like you, mate. I didn't lose any love for the Cowboys from this game. I think you touched on a few things there, but a lot of pretty much anything that could go against them did go against them. I was watching that game and their line speed was exceptional. And we know that they built the foundation of their success early on in the year that sort of flabbergasted everyone off the back of their defence and their line speed. And, we sort of say, the Bunnies weren't at their best and didn't quite click. I think that's because of how good the Cowboys' line speed was. And they couldn't get into a groove all game because they were just flying up. Their fitness was so impressive. And I sort of sat there going, even at full time when they lost by 10 or whatever it might have been, going, you know what, when Dearden comes back in, Drinky's definitely better at fullback. Drinky spent most of the time at fullback anyway, but, you can put Hammer out wider off the bench as an X factor. And, I don't know. I certainly wasn't disheartened by the Cowboys' performance, and I sort of thought going into finals, we know your defence wins your competitions. I think the signs are okay despite the loss.
Yeah, I'd agree. Look at this. Off the bench, Jake Granville had 18 tackles, he missed 1. But outside of that, they had no missed tackles from their bench players. And the least played was Granville, 15. So Ruben Cotter, 38 tackles, 0 misses. Tom Gilbert, 31 tackles, 0 misses. Tanoa Brown, 21 tackles, 0 misses. Talk about coming on. And their bench made 0 errors.
Few selection question marks. Ruben Cotter off the bench, played 45 minutes. Didn't love that. I quite liked when Luciano Leilua was playing his impact role off the bench. The Halem Lukey from earlier in the year where he come off the bench and play 50 straight at more of a tiring defensive line. I'd definitely be starting Cotter and have Leilua off the bench. Not that I don't mind starting Leilua, but if it's going to be at the expense of, say, Cotter. And then the great Griffin Neame. 18th man, mate.
Surely he was injured.
He was 18th man. And then Jermaine Tanoa-Brown was on the bench.
Oh, so he was at 17 and he decided to put Granville at... Okay, so he was named at 17 and Granville was brought into the side. Maybe he was a bit crook or something. Neem's been great this year.
But why 18th man if he was crook? That's what I was trying to work out. Like, surely you just drop him out if he's crook or got a niggle or something.
Especially when you're using Jermaine Tanoa-Brown for that 18 minutes.
Well, maybe like you have a niggle where it's like we don't want to play him, but if he's there, you know what I mean? Like we can play him if we have to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't make sense.
Nah.
Griffin Neem's been outstanding this year, like really, really good. That's surprising. I didn't even notice that. I'd love to know the reasoning behind that. Surely it's not form.
Can't. And that's like what I initially thought was like, all right, he must have just been rested to get away off. But I was like, if you give him a rest after, like, he wouldn't have missed too many games this year, Griffin. Surely you like sit him outside the squad. But, you know, he got his rest, I suppose. Yeah. So maybe that was the thinking.
Surely he'll be back. Do you reckon he'll be back next week, though?
I'd say so.
Surely.
It is interesting with their minutes when you have a look at them. Like, Cotter only played 45. Gilbert only played 33. Hess played 24. Like, what, he got submitted in the 75th or something along those lines. So, he missed out on minutes there, but he didn't miss out on 30 minutes there.
Do you reckon Payton is trying to rest him a little bit?
Maybe.
He's like his key players?
Knows they're not dropping out of the 4. But as you said, that home final is
so important,
The other one I wanted to touch on, the Chad. That try assist for Felt, just the instinctual footy. I think it might have been 5th tackle and they ran it, or it might have been 4th. I think it was 5th off the top of my head. And he ran it, beat a couple, scammed across field, put Felt in the corner. A bloke who's known for being a very structured halfback. That was really off-calf, top-notch footy.
Felt. What a fucking try from Felt.
Yeah, I feel like you understated Felt's role there. It was sensational. It was...
Well, Felt does that for fun.
Yeah, literally. One of the best finishes in the comp. Yeah. Seriously, the amount of games Felt has won for the Cowboys is outrageous. And also, Felt had a pretty rough start to the game. So to come in back like that and get them back in the game, incredible try by Felt. I want to give a shout-out to Reece Robson. I thought he was really good. Really good. Ran for over 100 metres, 47 tackles. Reece Robson's just growing each week. I really like him. He's getting explosive. He's getting confident, making the right decisions. I thought he was great on the weekend. No errors as well without much work. So yeah, like it's a tough week to gauge with the Cowboys. There's one part of me that's like all the like foundationals that you need to win comps with defense, grittiness, toughness. It's all there. But then there's another part of me is like, do they have that, like when things do go against them, like the penalty count, do they have that incredible superstar that just does something amazing? It remains to be seen. Maybe they do. I mean, they got Val Holmes in the centre. He did an Origin, so yeah, maybe they do. So I'm just, Luke, I don't know, where would I be out of 10 when it comes to hype for the Cowboys? About a 7 or 8, around there. Maybe 7 or 8. Whereas like Roosters for me have shot up to like 9. Rabbitohs probably 7 to 8. But yeah, interesting.
It would be, we obviously mentioned it before without harping on about it, but if the Cowboys didn't have that Tigers win, they'd be on 32. And then you could have, Melbourne play Parramatta, whichever team won out of that would have jumped the Cowboys out of the 4, and then whoever wins out of Roosters South could have knocked them out of the top 4 as well.
Yeah,
So if it did play out that way, it could have been an unbelievable last week. And then the Sharks would have been safe with a home fight. Penrith and Sharks could have rested all their guys this week as well.
But so the Cowboys are playing Penrith that are resting all their guys, correct?
Yes. Well, so we've been told.
Yeah. So does that mean that they'll definitely get a home final if they win?
The Cowboys. Well, no, if the Sharkies win this week.
Okay. Who's Sharkies playing?
Newcastle.
Oh, fuck. Jesus. Mate, Newey. What's doing?
Yeah. So it's an interesting one for the Cowboys. They can't fall out of the worst they can finish is 4th. If Penrith are resting guys, I don't know. Do the Sharks play before the Cowboys this week? Just getting up the draw.
Yeah. Either way, it's
they play after them.
Yeah, what I love is that it's just such a red hot race. Like obviously Penrith are out and out favourites, but there's not a single team in there that you could count out.
Yep.
Like you can't count a single team. So yeah, tough loss, but a lot went against the Cowboys, and they didn't come back in. Now, Tigers, Dragons, look, not that much to talk about here, obviously, because they can't make the finals. I will say, though, that both teams look pretty poor. This was a tough game. This was a tough game. The errors were 16 errors for the Tigers and 10 errors for the Dragons.
Tough game to watch,
mate. The Tigers had 63% completion rate, and they were still in it to the death. And what's like, I feel sorry for Tigers fans because like that last 2 or 3 minutes, the game was won. It was there. It was just get through your sets because it wasn't like the Dragons were throwing anything crazy at them. And then obviously, what I'm unsure about though is that winger where it hit his foot. Isn't it supposed to be something that you play at? Because the rule is willfully touches the ball.
I'm not sure how it's stated in the rule book, but that's always been how it's been officiated.
So even if it just hits you,
that's always been my understanding.
Because the rule book says willfully touches the ball.
Interesting. So
I wonder whether they got shafted again with a grey area, because he obviously didn't play at it. Forget all that. It was in his power to not touch the ball. It's just step away. Just like. What I don't get.
I don't care how the rules said or whatever. It's very simple. Just get the fuck out of the way.
Just get out. Like what I don't. It's simple. Like just a small effort. It's a tiny effort that literally. It's not even an effort. Like just step out of the way. Makes no sense. But anyway, I will say though, in his defence, a lot of people blaming him, and they're also blaming the centre. I think it's Kapoa. Adam Dewey, who I love and think's great. Adam Dewey knocked the ball on. And that next set coming out of trouble. The Tigers actually withheld the Dragons that set. They were coming out of trouble and then Dewey knocked the ball on. So it was a team effort, that loss. Like it was, you can't just blame one of the boys and say, that dropout was the fault or Kapoa head high. There were a few people that made mistakes and plus they made a bunch of mistakes, 16 in the game. But I'm actually going to say silver lining for the Tigers is even though they made all these mistakes, they only completed 24 sets. They still were in the game till the death. So that's a positive sign. Quickly on the Tigers.
Yeah, so sometimes you watch close games and you come out of it and you say, neither team deserved to lose. Fuck, I don't know if either team deserved to win this. It was one of those games. They'll both be very disappointed with their performance. As you said, Tigers, things went against them and whatnot. Still managed to be in it. At the same time, though, they never should have lost this game from where they were. Like the Dragons, they looked awful in the first half. I thought, the amount of times that Ben Hunt would throw a pass and there'd be a knock on, or a player would just be running completely rogue. They just looked like they hadn't trained together that week. Yeah, it was tough to watch. I don't know what you say about both of these sides. To be honest with you, mate, tough.
I mean, Laurie at the back for the Tigers, I thought he tried his absolute heart out.
As he always does.
Yeah.
I thought that try that Jock Madden scored was a great
it's a great try.
That was a very good try. New Brown obviously jumped into the 13 role. I didn't mind it. Your mate scored 2 meaties.
Tommy Freeburn. Yep.
Free the burn.
Yeah, played a bit of footy with Tommy down in the Illawarra for a while there, and he didn't debut in the NRL till a few weeks ago, 27 years old, just a real toiler and done his hard yards through lower grades up in the New South Wales Cup, spent plenty of time there and a few injuries, got his start on the edge on the weekend and scored 2, so yeah, good luck to him.
Dragons quickly, look, there was at least some individual. Sewell was great. Lomax's conversion was really good, and he had 6 tackle breaks, a try assist. So Lomax was good, and I'm happy for Lomax. He's had an up and down year. I thought the start of the year he was great. Mid-year really struggled, and then it's good to see at the end of the year that he's starting to get some bit of confidence. Tautau Moga ran for 221 metres. Just a bizarre performance because the meterage and everything was there. The completion rate was there for the Dragons, but they just looked disconnected.
Imagine if you said to someone who didn't see the game, like with the roster that the Tigers ran out with blokes out injured all over the place, and you said, all right, the Dragons are going to have 59% possession, complete at 85%, while the Tigers complete at 63%. What's the scoreline in this game? You'd be like, it was 50-6.
Yeah. Bizarre. 24-22.
Yeah.
Ups, and it's like at the death win. So I'm not sure. The Dragons, the Ben Hunt situation, we've already spoken about that, but I'm a bit concerned. It seems like there's growing noises. You know, you got the whispers about Hook. Is he going to be here? All that kind of stuff. You got the recruitment. There's been a lack of recruitment. I don't know. There may be. I'm a bit concerned about the Dragons next year.
Oh yeah, I love him as a player, but fuck, I could not believe when Jack Bird got sin bin yesterday. Like I think they were down 12-6 at the time, and it was just walk away, Jack.
It's that double-edged sword. He's so passionate.
Yeah, he's
player,
but
it is silly.
I couldn't believe the way he just kept going and going and going. It was, especially after you had Cody Ramsey sin bin. He'd only been back on the field for 3 minutes. When it happened, and considering how poorly that, I don't know. Obviously, just frustration and whatever. But yeah, I was shocked by that.
Outside of that, not really much else to talk about, guys. Apologies, but we'd just be saying the same stuff we said all year.
I think it looks like Aaron Woods activated his player option.
Wow.
By playing 18 games, I think. That's what I read. So I think he'll be at the Dragons next year.
That's interesting. Wow. It's, Hook must want him there. Otherwise, he wouldn't have played him to activate his player option. Okay. Oh, yeah. Now, last game of the round. Look, it was enjoyable to watch the Titans get the win, I'll be honest, as a Gold Coast boy. Pretty poor game, though. Look, I loved Brimo killing it. I thought the Titans played some of their better footy, 86% completion rate, which is, what they needed. Again, Tino killed it. Brimo killed it. The Titans, it was one of their better games, but it was still 36-26. When the Titans win, they don't win 12-6 or 16-6. They win, by a cricket score that's, looks... Anyway. We've already kind of spoken about Brimo. Tino, again, killed it. Anything on the Titans that you want to talk about?
I just remember sitting there yesterday, and I think that we have one of the best jobs in the world watching footy all the time. But yesterday afternoon when that Tigers game finished and then Jaden Campbell kicked out on the full off the first kickoff, I just went, fuck, don't tell me the Titans aren't on here. That was the one saving grace of the afternoon. You got to see the GC up there going mad. I thought there was a try that, I think it was Fafita's try, where Jaden Campbell got the ball and he bounced off his left and just...
Beautiful stuff.
Oh, so good.
Poetry in motion.
Yeah.
It's like Jaden's got to be their fullback and Brimo's got to be their 6.
Has to be there. I thought Beau Fermor, the try that he scored, that line that he hit and went through, he was sensational. And AJ, he was just the star of the show. He's got to be the 6. I don't know where that leaves Tanner Boyd, Toby Sexton.
To think they've come this far to not play either of them, fucking crazy.
And they've also got Tom Weaver, who's the Australian halfback from last year as well. So they're going to have 3 Aussie schoolboys that they're not using, who granted that they're going to learn off foreign. Hopefully one of them can step into those shoes after. But, yeah, it's an interesting situation.
Thoughts, Timmy? Titans?
Yeah, the only one I'll touch on without sounding like too much of a broken record is the Fafita try as well. They finally just used him the way they should, and that's just get him his one-on-ones, like basically every other team does with their back rows in the NRL, except the Titans managed not to do it. And it just took a little bit of, you'd call it a bit of brilliance from Jaden Campbell, but it also was
pretty standard.
He got a one-on-one and he's quick and he's nimble, and he got Fafita into a bit of space, slash a one-on-one. I can't remember who missed the tackle, but he was never making that tackle. Yeah. And Fafita strolled straight through, and it's just like, I just watched and went, thank Christ that happened before this season ended.
Yeah. Because they did something similar, it was less pretty, but against Manly, they just gave him just a short ball on Schuster, and he just went straight over him.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, they just give him, like, people say, early ball for Fafita and he'll do the rest. No, it's not early ball. Yeah. It's get him his one-on-one with a head of steam, and someone has to try and tackle him one-on-one.
Yeah, which is fucking impossible.
Yeah, when Campbell did that, I was like, thank God someone's unlocked what he needs to be doing, and never tackling him.
To the Knights, Gagai had a relatively quiet first half. I thought his second half was outstanding, Probably would have been in my team of the week, but just the 7 missed tackles,
His
I just
defence
couldn't.
was rubbish.
Yeah.
He got stood up a couple of times in the first
But
half.
he had 2 tries, a try assist, 236 metres, 14 tackle breaks,
Brimo
3 line breaks.
Brimo ripped him twice,
Yeah.
and Seb Chris ripped him 1-on-1 last week.
Yeah, yep. So his defence just needs a bit of sorting, but I just think Gagai's a victim of what's going on up there.
Yeah.
He's just, you see the 2 tries, a try, 236 metres, 14 tackle breaks, like that's who he is. The defensive side in a good system, he'd have that sorted. Another positive is Mapapalangi, 172 metres, 20 tackles, 3 tackle breaks, a line break. The positive is he's actually a 6. And if you're like, his first 2 games have been pretty impressive. Like they haven't been like showstoppers or whatever, but a silver lining for the Knights is they got this young gun that at the very least can handle the physicality, more than handle the physicality. He can imprint on a game with his meterage. He's got good tackle breaks. His defence is solid. If he can transition into that 6 role and you get a decent 7 inside him, maybe there's a bit of there's a light at the end of the tunnel for the Newey Knights. Because I think Mapapalangi looks impressive. Really, really impressive. Definitely a shining light. Outside of that, though, Clemmer, once again, comes out, 47 tackles, 137 metres. But outside of that, oh, man, that place is a very tough place to be right now.
I thought Jaden Brayley had a reasonably good game. But, yeah, outside of that, it was pretty...
I mean, they just got beaten by the Titans that were fighting for the spoon.
Yeah, and as much as you said at the start, 36-26, I mean, it was only the send-off that got the Knights back in this one.
Yeah.
If there was no send-off, I think they could have hit the 50 mark.
Thoughts on the send-off? I actually thought it was a little bit tough.
Yeah.
10 minutes in the bin, but I'm willing to cop those little bit too harshes because that's such a dangerous tackle.
Yeah, as am I. I would have been happy either way.
That is us. Got anything on, boys?
No, we've got Beers and Break-Evens. That'll be our last week of Supercoach this week. So Wednesday, we'll be back on there.
Last week, a big week. Where are you sitting, Supercoach?
Had a bit of a drop this week.
Yeah.
About 400. We're both doing well, but we'd like to be better. 400.
Timmy?
I'm about 700, so been a bit of chat throughout the season. Guru stumbling at the final hurdle a little bit.
One of the great fucking
But you're
stumbles.
700.
Yeah,
He's 400.
Yeah, for now, mate. We
Oh,
are.
okay.
For the first time this season, he didn't listen to my advice and it screwed him.
Oh,
Had one of the
wow.
great bed shits of all time.
Who'd you pick?
Got fucking pizzled. I went for a bold call of Brian Toto not scoring well.
Oh, I saw that clip.
Yeah, got absolutely fucking hammered. So thank you for all of that. I've been called that many names in a long time.
That is us done and dusted. Make sure to grab a case of Bloke and a Bar beer, the best beer in all the land. Also, Bloke jerseys, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Be there. But as usual, I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.